Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the meeting to order, regular meeting of the Dearborn Heights City Council. And this is at 7:05 p.m., February 22nd, 2022. Madam Clerk, please take roll call.
Dave Abdallah.
Here.
Hassan Ahmad.
Here.
Mo Beydoun.
Here.
Nancy Breyer. Here. Robert Constant.
Here.
Ray Muscat.
Here.
Tom Wenzel.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Madam Clerk, thank you very much appreciated. At this point, we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance, and it's going to be led by my second favorite, Councilman Mo Beydoun, please. Wow. Next to Dana.
He got demoted.
My second.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You get entertained also.
We have to entertain, yeah. Mo was disappointed when I selected Dana last time. So we'll pick him as our second favorite.
For the record, is because he called her his favorite.
That's right. Okay, so next on our agenda is agenda approval.
Council Chair,
Councilman Beydoun.
I move that the Dearborn Heights City Council approve the agenda for the regular meeting of February 22nd, 2022 as submitted.
Support.
Motion made by Councilman Beydoun, supported by Councilman Constant. Is there any discussion?
Council Chair,
Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
can we remove
You
one
wanna
of the
remove
items
51?
on the invoices? It's duplicate, 651.
Was that 51?
Yes,
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
So Councilman Beydoun, you got to amend your motion with the removal
I amend my motion
of
with
current
the...
claim 51.
yeah,
With amending
651.
my motion with current claim 51.
Yes,
Right, and then there's another one that's going to be tabled. This is from our treasurer, Lisa Hicks Clayton. This would be item 9A, the 2021 construction bond payments.
And I also table line item 9A for the treasurer.
Remove it, yeah.
remove it.
Okay?
Or
No,
we're going
she
to remove
wanted
it, I'm sorry.
No, she wanted it tabled.
Tabled or removed?
Refer back. Okay, she wants it referred back
So I move the motion
to
to
administration.
refer back to the administration 9A.
Okay? So motion made by Councilman Beydoun, with the amended motion, seconded by Councilman Constant. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please state aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Item number 4. Councilman Constant.
I move that the Dearborn Heights City Council approve the minutes for the regular meeting of February 8, 2022, as outlined in 4A.
Support.
Okay, motion made by Councilman Constant, supported by Councilman Beydoun. Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is item number 4B.
Council Chair,
Councilman Beydoun.
I move that the Dearborn Heights City Council approve the minutes of the special meeting of February 15th, 2022 as outlined in 4B.
Support.
Okay, motion made by Councilman Beydoun, supported by Councilman Muscat. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it, motion carried. Next item on the agenda is public hearings and comment on agenda items only. For those in the public, and even possible administration, if you'd like to come up to the podium and speak, you will have 2 minutes. Please speak on agenda items only at this particular point. Come on up. And we have our director of the recreation department here. She asked for an extra minute or 2. So we're going to go, I've allowed you, of
Okay.
course, but I'm just letting the audience know. Go ahead,
Thank
please.
you, thank you. I'd like to speak on 11A. I just want to start with this. It's really, really important to change the poll location from Canfield Center to the Crestwood High School for many reasons. The first one is we house one of the best gymnastics/youth programs in the Canfield Center, one of the best that we've had in the city for years. We currently have 200 students in this class, and they are full. These are all resident families, and the program serves our community with the utmost professionalism, and it's one of our shining stars. This serves ages 4 through 18. If we lost this program, it will be devastating to our youth programming, which I am trying to build up, not decrease. We've had this program since 2006. Some families have had their children in this program for years, going from level to level. If we can't move the poles, which is only there twice a year, we will be losing the gymnastics program. That is why this has actually been brought up to us. Each time that they have an election, we have to move the equipment the night before, and then we also have to put the equipment the day after. The equipment is very heavy. Every time it's moved, it's damaged. And then in addition to that, it's just us at Parks and Recreation and the few people in the gymnastics program. Pre-COVID, we were on track to make $50,000 a year in revenue just from this program. They do other programs such as summer day camp, tumbling, and cheerleading, just to name a few. The election is only twice a year. Moving it next door to Crestwood is just putting it next door, and you are keeping a very viable youth program in Dearborn Heights. I would like you to remember that the youth, is our future. This program promotes the best qualities in our youth, such as self-confidence, pride, respect, self-commitment. In addition, physical education, something that they don't receive much of in school anymore. I'd like to really have you consider this. It's really important. I know it's a change, and change is tough, but they have already told me, and they've told me several times, that they will leave our location if they have to continually move the equipment. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the program. It's a really, really nice program. We've got lots of equipment. They can go right up until level 8 now because we've got the bars. We've had to secure the equipment to the floors. It's impossible to continue to move every year. And like I said, the elections are only twice a year. I would hope that you vote for the kids. Basically, that's what this would be about. So thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Council Chair?
Yes, if you could just give me a quick second, Councilman, before we begin. So this is for our corporation counselor. If you recall, we had requested, one of our requests that I put in is I'd like to be able to answer audience questions on agenda items. So I just wanted, before we do that, is that officially okay now, or is it not okay yet?
You will have to, I'll bring it for your next meeting, but if you want to suspend the rules, you can do so by a 2/3 vote right now and allow that to end up happening.
Okay, thank you. So for this particular meeting, let's take this to a vote. Who's in favor of suspending the rules for this meeting only to be able to comment on agenda items? Now, when I'm saying comment on agenda items, for those in the audience that are not familiar with this, we had made a rule a few years back, I can't recall when, where the council members would not answer people in the audience that would have questions or concerns or comments on agenda items. So we would always be just watch and say nothing. I personally, I'm speaking on my behalf, not as a body, but I was not in favor of that. I believe that when a resident asks a question, I think, they should get the answer from us as council members before we vote on it, not later on in the public comments where it'd be too late. So with that being the case, I'm just giving the audience an update. With that being the case, I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules temporarily for this meeting only. But before we do any discussion on that,
Council Chair?
yes, Councilman.
Yeah, maybe what we can do, just to keep uniform with past practices, is unless somebody else in the audience has something to say, debate it when we come to 11B.
Sure, absolutely. But sometimes members of the audience have asked us a question. In this particular case, I've got two council members that want to ask the director a question. So I just want to give the audience an opportunity to be answered. Councilor Gary?
Yes, I was just going to suggest, you said made a motion, you should end up having a second and actually.
I'll second.
Okay. So motion made by myself, Dave Abdallah, seconded by Councilman Ray Muscat. All in favor of suspending the rules for this meeting only, please state aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. So, Director, Kim, if you don't mind, we had two questions, one from Councilman Baydoun and one from Councilman Tom Wenzel.
So
with respect, Kim and Director Kim, I want you to know, I struggle with saying your last name because I don't think I memorized it yet, so I
That's-
mean no disrespect,
okay.
honestly. And I want you to know that this is a very important topic to me. I know this was brought up to us about a year ago. With respect to the 200 volunteers who are all Dearborn Heights residents, there's 900 registered voters that vote in that precinct. I'm sorry, there could be close to 20,000.
It's
but there's-
200 kids, you said volunteers.
Well, I'm sorry, the 200
And that's
kids that
just for this
participate there,
class.
Director, please, the
I'm
200 people that participate there, one day out of the year is not going to make, and if they're going to leave us because of business and threaten us with that, then by all means, have them leave us. I'm all open for that, but to switch a polling precinct that's been there for close to 35-plus years, to move it over because of one day.
It's 2 days, by the way. Just
Or
in case.
2 days out the year, I don't feel it's fair. It's election day. It is also already a nuisance on our residents when it comes out to go out, get them out to go out and vote. And I've asked Mike, for precinct people that are in precincts 11 and 12. One, you have Crestwood that has 4 different entrances. It's already going to make it difficult, assuming where they're going to go park, which door they're going to go into. Secondly, the location that's been there for 35-plus years. I mean, I remember I had this conversation with Mr. Muscat, Councilman Muscat. And he said, as long as I can remember, I've been voting at precincts 11 and 12. So the confusion there is only going to interrupt more elections. And then I've also, I believe the clerk has also said, one, it's better that it stays, that a polling precinct is in your own state or that something that you own. We own that Canfield Center. It is also more open to voter fraud if we move it over to Crestwood. And maybe we can find a solution where we can speak with Crestwood or Riverside to see if the gymnastics that day can be moved over to Crestwood, because there are gymnastic equipment here at Riverside and at Crestwood. So if the case was about the equipment, great, we have equipment at Riverside, we have equipment on Crestwood, one day out, twice out of the year. It's not a big deal. I really don't see the reason of moving this. And I appreciate and I think everything that you're doing, but the 200, people that are part of the gymnastics, are they all year round, always on election year?
It's year-round, and it's more than that. It's 200 right now because we're still dealing with COVID. So we have 2 long classes, so it can range anywhere from 400 to 800 depending on where we're at. Like I said, pre-COVID, we were making a revenue close to 50,000.
Wonderful.
So our classes were full then, and it's not just gymnastics, they run other programs as well. We have very few youth programs in Dearborn Heights, which I'm trying
And
to change.
I'd love for the administration or the Parks and Rec, and maybe if this body is okay with it, we can even offer them some type of incentive so that we're not asking them to leave, but it's twice a year.
I
And if they're
don't
gonna
want
threaten
you-
us and hold us by that, at least, from what I've learned in my, realm of business, is, and I know, Dave, you told me this the other day, nobody takes threats lightly. At the end of the day, we're
Well,
providing
I don't want
a
you to
service.
misunderstand.
Yeah.
It's not a threat.
I mean, it's saying that they're
okay?
gonna leave us is a
It's-
threat.
Council Chair, can I?
It's
Can
not
I
a
inter-
threat. It's something that we brought to the attention of past administrations and stuff, and future, because, it's really difficult to do these things.
Okay.
I know, but
So-
it also becomes more difficult on the clerk's office, who I've asked already, and I believe Lynn has told me, it's making the clerk's job just even harder.
Okay. So I just want to clarify 2 things. When we speak on agenda items, it's only in case you want to answer somebody at the podium. Otherwise, we'll do it during the discussion part. So if you don't mind, Councilman Ray Muscat said it was okay. Councilman Wenzel, I know you were next. Is it okay if I let the mayor speak because he wants to answer to something? Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
No, I wanted to reiterate, so it wasn't a threat, it was just basically they're sick and tired of dismantling the equipment. It takes days to dismantle the equipment that they
With
have.
respect, Mayor, it's twice
Wait,
a year.
let him finish.
No, I understand twice a year, but it takes,
I'll get volunteers to help them.
Wait, let him
It's not-
finish, let him finish.
We tried that, and we didn't get any.
Okay.
I will, I
Wait.
promise you I can.
Mo, let the mayor finish. Go ahead, Mayor.
so plus, if we were to make any changes, it's best to do it now because there's redistricting. So that's one of the things that we talked about, Council Chair, you were at that meeting.
Correct.
And again, it's revenue coming to the city, and also it's dismantling all the equipment they have. It's a pretty lengthy process, I've seen it. And afterwards, they have to bring everything back, so they have to put it back together.
Again,
And-
I
and the
promise you,
re-
I will have volunteers for you guys.
Well, you can't, because usually we're putting them back together during school. Taking it down is at night, putting it back
It won't
together
even have to be
is in the
students.
morning.
It won't even be students. I promise you. I will personally go out there and help you.
And every time I'm not supposed to be doing this, I don't think, but every time that we take the stuff apart and put it back together, it's really hard on the equipment. They have a spring floor, and it's already broken pieces of it.
Okay. Director, just one last thing. I'm so sorry, Council Chair. I just want you to know, it seems like I'm willing to go above and beyond, and there's always a reason why it's not okay, and I just want you to know I'm completely against this, and I'm hoping that my colleagues will stand in support of myself and the clerk's office to not support this. I'm just being completely
Well, I'm
open
not
about
making
it.
things up. These are true items that we've come across every time that we've taken it apart and put it back together.
But it's going to be just as hard on the clerk's office as well.
Okay. All right, thank you. Next up is Councilman Tom Wenzel, and then, sir, if you'd like, you come up. If you want to speak on agenda items, absolutely. So next is Councilman Tom Wenzel, and then Councilman Ray Muscat, and then Councilman Constant.
Thank you.
And again, if it's a discussion on a particular item, and it can wait until the discussion time during the vote, that's fine. It's only if you had a particular question for the person at the podium, but go ahead.
Thank you. I personally know about the gymnastic equipment. A lot of my daughters are in gymnastics, and when they are moved, they have to be recalibrated, springs and all that stuff. It's a lengthy process. It can't be done by amateurs, for one thing. But anyway, this question's for Corporation Counsel. Is an action taken by the clerk in this situation, does it require council approval?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, polling locations?
Yeah.
Have
It's state law.
State law? Okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Councilman Ray Muscat.
I just don't understand and correct me if I'm wrong, it's a recreation center. So is it a recreation center or is it just a gymnastics center? Because if I wanted to hold something there as a citizen and I'm paying the taxes for there, we'd have to dismantle that equipment anyway.
When we did have things, and it's not just gymnastics, they do offer other youth programs, but before, and I can tell you because I've been here 34 years now, before that, basically, we rented out the gym to non-residents most of the time. We're serving residents now, which makes a huge, huge difference.
And when I was a kid, we went and played basketball there.
It's never been basketball since I've been there because it doesn't have the right floor.
I'm just saying, but we
Yeah.
did play basketball there.
Yeah.
And if kids want to play pickup basketball in that neighborhood, they should be able to be
Yeah.
allowed to play pickup basketball there.
That
So we
is-
can't, right now, you're telling me it's just a gymnastics center.
Even before we had that program in there, it was not, we never had the drop-off. Since I've been there, it's always just been rented out for parties.
Okay.
And if a party was going to be rented, what are you going to do?
Like I said, most of them were non-residents. I'd
It
rather
doesn't
see
matter
us
if it's
serve
non-residents or
residents than
not.
non-residents.
But we do get state money for that, so it's just not for residents, it's for everyone.
You're correct. I'm not here to argue, I'm just here
I'm
to
not either.
tell you what the,
Thank you, Councilman. So Councilman
Cases.
Constant, last one?
One question, has anyone checked with Crestwood? Does Crestwood say it can be done or not be done?
You're talking about to do
move
the,
it from-
the clerk's office to listen
Yes,
to
we've
Madam
already
Clerk.
met
Go
with
ahead.
Dr. Musalam.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Any other questions for Kim? Okay, thank you, Kim, appreciate it. Any other members of the audience like to speak on agenda items only? You'll have 2 minutes. Please state your name, I'm sorry, sir, please state your name, street you live on.
My name's Chuck Zevins. I live on Powers, Dearborn Heights, South End.
Thank you. And please, if you don't mind, sir, because of the Zoom meetings, if you come as close as you can to the microphone or carry it. I see you're a taller guy, so maybe carry it.
When did gymnastics become more important than voting? That's for everybody here. I mean, I understand the community and the kids and blah, blah, blah. But this is still America, ain't it? We're allowed to vote? Doesn't that trump a gymnastics thing?
Talking about moving a polling location, moving it, not getting rid of it.
Yes.
What's more important than voting? Gymnastics trumps voting? Is that what you're telling me? They're saying that the clerk here is going to have a problem with it and this and that. And I mean, you question the lady on it. What's more important? Gymnastics or voting? That's my question. Anybody want to answer?
I will answer. I personally believe the voting polling precinct should stay at precincts 11 and 12 at Canfield. And I'm asking all of my colleagues to support me on that.
Yeah. And
Thank you,
I
Frank.
we're not going to vote on that at this particular time, obviously, sir. But obviously, you know, if you'd like an answer, it'd become a vote. But I do see your point, and yes,
That's the whole
absolutely,
reason-
voting is extremely important.
That's the whole
And that's
reason
one of the
why I
biggest
come
rights
to
we've
this.
got.
I mean, this is an open forum, and you're allowing me to talk. I mean,
Yes.
what's more important than voting? Okay, yeah.
It's definitely one of the most important things we've got.
I just put a 60-second sign up, sir, that's all.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next up, come on up.
Hi, guys. Rachel LaPointe. Just on that same, I don't remember
Wait,
what.
if I could interrupt you for a sec,
Yeah.
please. City, street
City-
name?
Wow, I can't even remember now. Merrick Street in Dearborn Heights.
Thank you.
Put me on the spot. So on this same item, which I don't remember what number it was, I think the important questions you can ask during your discussion that I would be looking at is, what is the income that would be lost if we lost the gymnastics program? If residents would have to seek out another facility for that, if there would be some sort of negative to the residents in terms of that, but also what cost analysis? If we're going to lose $1 million a year, that's basically funding, you know, the Canfield Center, that'd be a really big deal, right? And then just look at kind of like those facts and what the cost of changing it out would be, because there's going to be costs related to switching to a new location for polling centers. There's going to be costs to the mental health of our employees. So I would take all those things into consideration, but look at those numbers too, because that's going to be an important factor, I think. And I think Councilman Muscat was raising a very good point that it's a community center, not a gymnastics center. And while gymnastics are important and great and a really good opportunity for our kids, is the community center being utilized the way that the city wants to utilize the community center? So that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Next up, please state your name, city, and street name.
Mohammed Jani, Dearborn Heights, Evangeline. I visited here a few months back, and I saw on the agenda item one of the things in regards to Beach Daily non-motorized crossing evaluation. This is about the crossing light in and around the fire station. Any update, anything going on, any good news, bad news?
Sure.
Any news?
So, you know, I'm sure the Ali Deeb in the mayor's administration is probably the best person to answer that. But there he is, he's on. So before he's on Zoom, Zoom. So Mr. Deeb, if you don't mind, if you could unmute, Madam Clerk, if we could unmute Mr. Ali Deeb, and he could best answer that. But before we start with Mr. Ali Deeb, I want to commend you on your activism, because community activism, residents activism is what's creating better things in our city, and at the very minimal, it's creating discussion. So thank you for originally bringing that forward.
I appreciate it.
Go ahead, Mr. Deeb.
Yes, sir. So what you have before you as item 9D is a proposal from an engineering firm to do this study. And the study is needed so we can determine the exact device that will be designed and installed in that location. It may or may not be. It is a pedestrian crossing device. And so we did a solicitation for quote. Multiple engineering firms were solicited. And we have a proposal, and we're just going to wait for approval, your approval, and we'll be on conducting the study. It's coming up.
Whose approval are we waiting?
The city council approval.
City Council, oh, okay.
Yes.
So
City
you
Council.
guys going to be
Yes.
voting on this tonight?
So we're going to be voting on this tonight.
Nice, nice.
And then after that, obviously, there's multiple steps involved in this process, which Ali Deeb has been taking the leadership role in this.
I consider us ahead of the game at this point.
He's bringing it, he's doing good stuff.
That's great. Appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Janney. Any other public comments on agenda items only?
Thought you were gonna get away, huh? Trapkowski, Columbia Street.
Vince, can you bring the microphone, please, as close as possible? Thank you. So name, street, and city.
Okay, Vince Trapkowski, Columbia Street, Dearborn Heights. Michigan. On the agenda, it's not totally about the agenda, but whoever brought this out with all of what we're spending and
Vince,
everything.
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt you. Yeah,
Oh,
because
sorry.
it's, just for those in the audience, it's very hard to hear up here because the speakers are pointed that way. So if you keep the microphone as close as you can, it's possible to you.
Okay, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
better.
I really don't have much on the agenda, but whoever built this and created these pages for the breakdowns of what we're spending, great job. This
Yeah, I
is
like
finally some transparency that is coming forth. So thank you for that. Also, you're talking about the polling places. Is it possible that Mr. Mackey over at Elite Sports could give us one day for voting?
You can't, no.
Change it to there, or
Vince, are you asking about being a polling station or using it for gymnastics?
well, either or. Has it been brought
Okay.
up to him?
So the mayor is looking
Is
to
it
answer that?
possible- Is it possible consideration instead of just a dead no?
Okay. Mr.
I'm
Mayor,
gonna-
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to look at corporation counsel because I think that was explored at one time, but because it's a for-profit
Well,
business, even though it was, and I wasn't
if I
there
may.
then, but it had something to do with that.
Sure. I believe that there is some provision in terms of us being able to use the facility for certain community events. But we went through several rounds of negotiations on that, and of course, Mr. Mackey agreed to rebuild the building. So I'm not sure if that's still in there, but I know that it was in at least a couple of the versions that I ended up preparing when we were negotiating. So we may have an option to basically ask him to allow us to do that. Namely, allow for a polling location on 1 or 2 days, but it's like a limited amount of time for communities.
Okay.
Can I ask, Vince, I'm not sure what your question was, I guess. Are you talking about moving the polling location to Mr. Mackey's? Or
Yeah, if that's
because-
possible, or...
Because
or-
there's not a problem with us, we have the agreement, Crestwood has already said it was okay to move it there. So it's not the polling location, I think, as far as the location, it's whether or not we should move it.
Right.
Can I just?
Okay,
Go ahead, Counsel.
Vince,
Well,
I also-
let's make sure are you all set, Vince?
go ahead, Mr.
Thank you, Vince. So I also want you to know that I've reached out to Dr. Musam as well, and I asked him, can the gymnastics be used at the time during polling? And he said, absolutely, whatever they want, whatever they need, we will provide to them.
Okay. And one other item on the agenda here, 9J, since we're going to be purchasing some firearms and stuff like that, I was wondering, when are we going to meet the new police commissioner? Is he going to introduce himself, come to this public forum?
I can ask him next meeting, he can come here in person. I'm sure he's on Zoom right now.
Okay.
But I'll have him, I asked all my directors, because still, COVID, to actually call in Zoom.
Understandable, but, yeah, it'd be nice to meet him in public for once
Okay,
and see what he's got to say. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Vince, appreciate it. Any other public comments? Madam Clerk, is there anybody on Zoom that has a public comment on agenda items?
I do not see any hands up.
Okay.
Council Chair.
Yes, Councilman.
Just to mention, the like walk-in basketball or basketball rental at the Richard Young Center is real hard on the building, real hard on it's usually not residents. I've had my car damaged over different things, and when they used to have gym rental at Canfield, whatever was in the fridge, at the end of the rental, it was eaten or drank or, so that's it.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Next, there's nobody else on Zoom, correct, Madam Clerk?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Seeing none, we're going to go to the next item. Next item on the agenda is fund transfers and current claims.
Council Chair,
Councilman Baydoun.
I move that the Dearborn Heights City Council approve the current claims 6-1 through 6-4 and 6-6 through 6-84 as submitted.
Support.
Okay, Councilman, I just want to make sure, just so we follow the right protocol, excluding Claim number 51.
Yep, and excluding
6-51.
6-51.
Okay. Motion made by Councilman Baydoun, supported by Councilman Constant. Is there any discussion on that?
Council Chair.
Councilman Muscat.
Just to let everyone know that I had a lot of communications going on about the whole packet, 61 through 684, most of them with our DPW Director, Mr. Conrad, and with our comptroller. And I want to thank our DPW Director for getting in touch with me and with Wade Trim on educating me on a few things that went on. It was a great discussion. So all my fears and thoughts were put to bed, and I thank you very kindly, sir. And I just want to say that I spoke with you, Council Chair, about this document here. And I spoke with our comptroller, and all I want to see is the fund where it says, you know, water general. There's, to me, like, you know, let's just take police, for instance. So you pick police. Well, the police have other accounts in their budget for clothing, ammunition, whatnot, and I need to know where all of these are coming from. Well, great if it's water. How about if it's, you know, certain part of water, or if it says DPW, if it's coming out of maintenance or highway? So I spoke with her, and I believe if she's on Zoom,
She is on.
if she can comment on that.
Good idea.
and-
Before, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if she can comment on
Yes.
what we talked about, I'd appreciate it, because she's probably a little better involved with it than
Absolutely.
I am.
So before you start, Controller, I just want to show the members of the audience, this is the one that the councilman is referencing, and this is a list of all the different current claims. There is basically a new program that the controller has, I believe the controller and the mayor has instituted, and I think it's a good one. But also, as I mentioned to you, Councilman, at the time, this is a new program that she's instituted, and it's a work in progress. We're still tweaking it to get to the point where it'll make their jobs easier, much less work for them to do, but also still get the information that we need to us. Go ahead, Madam Controller.
Certainly. Thank you so much. And I appreciate everyone, the opportunity to make a few changes and maybe streamline things a bit. When I did talk to Councilman Muscat, he asked that where on the second column from the left, it shows fund and it says like general, water, et cetera. I would also add the department. So it would say general fund police, for example. He's also requested another additional column which would have the account name, thereby being supplies, professional services, et cetera. So it's a little bit, it would be more comprehensive and show you general fund, police department, contractual services. So those items would be added in there. That is his suggestion. I am more than willing to make those changes. However, I did not want to make those changes before, you know, without council's concurrence.
Okay, no problem. You've made some great choices so far, so absolutely, I'm okay with that.
Council Chair?
Councilman, go ahead.
I know we can vote on this, but we can make a motion to have the comptroller change this right after we vote on the current claims.
Okay, no problem. I don't even actually, Councilor Gary Miyake, I don't even think we have to vote on her making this change, do we, or?
No, she's going to do it in administration.
As long as we're okay with the way she's presenting it?
Yeah, that would be great then, if she can go
Yeah.
ahead and do it.
So, Controller, go at it.
Work your magic.
Absolutely work her magic. She's doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And I don't know what, it looks beautiful there. You're making us jealous. I know it's just a background, but it looks good.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions or, okay, Councilwoman?
Yes, on item 656, I'm wondering why we have something from October of 2019 listed.
What was that?
656.
656.
Okay, so 656. That would
October of
be-
2019, wow.
It's sewage, but I mean, that's
No, it's okay.
3 years ago.
That's okay. So Councilwoman Nancy Breyer, this is a bill from the county, so I believe, you want to go ahead and, I believe you're the one that signed off on that, Robert Conrad. So Director Conrad, do you mind answering a question if you don't mind coming up to the podium? Councilwoman Nancy Breyer's got a question on item 656, a bill from the county for fixed sewage for $420,402. And the question she's got is there a reason why we're paying a bill now from way back when in October, specifically invoice date
Of 19.
of 10/31 of 2019? Do you need the sheet just in case? You have it?
Yeah, I don't have that backup, but I can
Here,
only
let me show you.
assume that it's because it's a delinquent payment that we haven't made, and we're trying to catch up on.
That's a heck of a delinquent payment.
Doesn't say delinquent.
So
If I can add something, please?
Comptroller.
Sure, but Robert, the controller would like to add something on that, is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much. In going through some of the different offices and the files, when I arrived, I found this bill, and so I contacted Wayne County and said, hey, I don't find any record on our side that we've paid this. They checked their records and found that it had not been paid, and so that's why it's coming forward to you now.
Okay.
Oh, boy, we should yell at you instead.
Yeah, we should check.
Okay, thank you, Controller. I appreciate it.
That's awesome. Thank you for doing that, by the way, really.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other, thank you, Councilwoman Nancy
I'm
Breyer.
thanking you for an explanation. Thank you very much.
Good catching that, Councilwoman.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions on current claims? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take this to a vote. All in favor, please state aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next item on the agenda is reports from mayor. Item 8A, request for a public hearing on vacation of unpaved roadway on Daniels between Powers and Courier.
Council Chair,
Councilman, go ahead.
I move that the Dearborn Heights City Council concur with the request for a public hearing for the vacation of an unpaved roadway on Daniels between Powers and Courier as outlined in 8-A.
Support.
Okay, motion made by Councilman Ahmad, supported by Councilman Constant. Is there any discussion on that?
Council Chair,
Councilman Muscat.
can someone answer this question? What are they going to do with this property?
It's long overdue. It's,
Well, what are they going to do with it?
They're going to extend their business, Council
So
Chair.
we're going to give them property to extend the
Parking lot.
If I may, this is a request for a public hearing.
Oh.
There will be a public hearing later scheduled.
Right.
And there'll have to be notice
Oh,
given to
for a
all
public hearing,
all the
okay, this is
people.
a
Right.
public hearing.
So just for past history, Councilman, this is one that came in front of our body a while
Yes.
back, if you recall, a couple years back.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same area right by the creek there, and they were adding a little additional parking space for land that we own. And it's technically on the street, but it's all grass right now. But all they're asking for right now is just a public hearing on that, to where anybody from residents or even us can come in and comment, and then
And then
we
it
vote
comes
on
back to
that
us.
later, at a later meeting.
No problem.
And also, Council Chair, I asked a question also that when they do obtain the property, if it's approved by council, that will reassess the taxes, so their taxes will
Correct.
increase.
Correct. Yep.
So that they add up.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So again, any other discussion items on that? Okay. All in favor, please state aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is item, 9A has been referred back, so we're back to 9B. Item 9B, assessor.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Okay, item 9B, Assessor Comer, Board of Review appointment.
Council Chair, I
Somebody
love
started
doing
here.
this one because it's a realtor. I gotta do this one.
Okay, go ahead.
Councilman Munzel's looking around.
Council Chair, can we have a motion on the refer back to the treasurer so that we have it part of our records?
Okay, absolutely. So okay, Councilman
I move
Muscat.
that 9A be referred back to the treasurer.
support.
Okay, motion made by Councilman Muscat, supported by Councilman Constant, to refer back item 9A on 2021 construction bond payments back to the treasurer. Any discussion on that?
We need support.
Yeah, it was supported.
Support.
I'm sorry, supported by Who was it? Councilman Ahmad? Councilman Ahmad? Any discussion on that? All in favor, please state aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it, motion carried. Next item on the agenda is item 9B from Assessor Comer, Board of Review appointment.
Council Chair,
Councilman Ahmad.
I move that the Dearborn Heights City Council concur with Assessor Commerce reappointment of Saad Hajjaj to the Board of Review as outlined in 9-B.
Support.
Motion made by Councilman Ahmad, supported by Councilman Baydoun. Any discussion on that?
Council Chair,
Councilman, go ahead.
personally, I did serve with Mrs. Hajjaj, and she's an outstanding asset to the board, and I'm in support of this appointment.
Thank you, Councilman. I could also speak in regards to Ms. Hajjaj, very knowledgeable person as far as city properties and city prices and sales in the area, so I think she's an excellent appointment. Thank you, Mayor, for bringing that forward, I'm sorry, the Assessor for bringing that forward.
Yes, she's very well respected by the.
Very
assessors.
respected,
Councilman,
absolutely.
you served on this, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I served on that board.
So did you?
Yes, you did.
Must be only realtors?
Huh?
Just joking.
No. Okay.
Recommended by Councilman.
Recommended, yeah, Councilman. Okay, so motion made by Councilman Ahmad, seconded by Councilman Baydoun. Any other discussion on that? See here none. All in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Next item on, for discussion is item 9C, Assessor Comer 2022, Poverty Exemption Policy and Guidelines.
Council Chair.
Councilman Muscat.
I move that the Dearborn Heights City Council approve the updated requirements for the City of Dearborn Heights 2022 Poverty Exemption Policy and Guidelines and the 2022 Poverty Exemption Application. The assessing department will make these forms accessible to taxpayers in person, online, as soon as possible, as soon as approved, as outlined in 9C.
Support.
Motion made by Councilman Muscat, supported by Councilman Constant. Is there any discussion on that? I'd like to just make a quick point. Having served on review board, tax review board, I highly recommend for those residents that have a challenging situation this year and they're having a difficult time paying their taxes, but keep in mind it is, there's an income level that it goes up to. At the very minimal, maybe call the assessor's office and see if you even possibly qualify. And if you do, obviously you could go ahead and apply for that to get some of your taxes adjusted so you can get through a difficult time or a hardship type of situation. So please contact the assessor's office phone number. I don't have it memorized, but I'm sure if you call the clerk's office, they'll give it to you. Do you know it offhand, Madam Clerk?
What's that?
Do you know the phone number for the?
For the
assessors?
assessor's office, that would be 313-791-3460.
Here we go.
Council Chair.
Our very own Vanna White.
Council Chair, we do have the Assessor Comer on Zoom right now. Maybe she can tell us maybe more
Yeah,
about the
actually,
dates.
yes, that's excellent.
When they can apply and the deadlines.
That's a good idea. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
So Kimberly Comer, I know I spoke with you, and the primary change in this thing was the exemption level has been adjusted. Otherwise, it's the same as last year in general. But can you just make a comment on that, kind of like what mine and your discussion on the phone was? And then also, if you could just give a general outline as far as what this program is about. A quick general outline, please. Thank you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say that the only real changes from the previous year was the income guidelines, and the state requires that we use the previous year's federal income guidelines when we are creating ours for our city. So that is what has changed on the form from this year from the previous. This program basically allows the Board of Review to look at people's financial situations and determine if their level of income qualifies, and if they are below the federal poverty guidelines, their taxes would be 100% exempt for the upcoming year. And if they meet the secondary threshold, which is about 15% higher, they would qualify for 50% tax exemption for the upcoming year. That is something that can be applied for once a year, and the March board, the July board, and the December board are able to review them. Typically, I recommend going to the July Board of Review because you need to be able to provide your income taxes, and most people have not completed their income tax in time for the March board. So I do recommend going to the July Madam Clerk gave out our phone number, and we are happy to field any and all phone calls. If you have any questions, we would be happy to assist you.
Thank you very much, Kimberly. And I do want to take this opportunity to commend our assessing department. We made a decision a while back to have Kimberly and her team run that department, and I got to tell you guys, in my last 8-10 years of dealing with the city, great job on a regular basis, so good job.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I do second that too, Council
sorry?
Chair. I do second whatever you just said. I worked with them, and they're amazing, outstanding, all the individual inside the assessor's office. They're all amazing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, their customer service is above and beyond, for sure. Next item on the agenda is item 9D. This is CEDD Director Hassan Jamal.
Council Chair?
Council Chair, we need to vote on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am, yes, we do. Okay, so motion made by Councilman Muscat, seconded by Councilman Constant. We've already had a discussion on that, so all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. The ayes have it. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item on the agenda is item 9D, CEDD Director Hassan Jamal, FEMA/PDMC 2016, Grant Change Order Number 2.
Council Chair.
Councilman Muscat.
I move that the Dearborn Heights City Council approve the FEMA/PDMC 2016 Grant Change Order Number 2 in the amount of $8,640. The change order is necessary to the discovery of asbestos and will increase the contract from $52,419 to $61,059. In addition, authorize the mayor and the comptroller to sign the necessary warrants and the treasurer to issue payments in the amount not to exceed $61,059 as outlined in 9D.
Support.
Motion made by Councilman Muscat, seconded by Councilwoman Nancy Breyer. Is there any discussion on that? I'd just like to make a quick comment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for continuing to work on the challenge we have in the South Heights. Okay, I know you've not taken it off the table, and you're continuing to push your administration to continue to work on this, so thank you. Okay, any other discussion items? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Next item on the agenda is item 9E, City Engineer, Beach Daily Non-Motorized Crossing Evaluation Proposal for Professional Engineering Services.
Council Chair.
Councilman Muscat.
I move that the Dearborn Heights City Council approve the proposal for professional engineering services with rate trim and authorize them to conduct a traffic study for non-motorized pedestrian crossing on Beach Daily Road between Ford Road and Wilson Drive to accommodate Crestwood High School in the amount not to exceed $5,200 as outlined in 9E.
Support.
Motion made by Councilman Muscat, supported by Councilman Baydoun. Is there any discussion items on
Chair.
that? Councilman Muscat, go ahead.
This is something I've been asking for 6 years. And 6 years later, it's finally come to fruition. And thank God. I hope we get something done here quickly.
Yes, absolutely. I know we've dealt with this for a long time, and during the public comments section, I commended the resident for continuing to push this forward. And this is a prime example, you know, when residents get involved, things happen with government. You know, sometimes residents think they can't change government. Yes, they can.
Council Chair, you know, this was not my idea. This was brought to me by Mr. Janney.
That's who I'm mentioning.
6 years ago.
Yes.
And just thinking about Mr. Janney and his son, the hair on the back of my head stand up, and I tip my cap to Mr. Janney.
Yes, thank you for continuing to push this forward. Appreciate it. So, any other discussion items? on
Council
this?
Chair.
Councilman Baydoun.
Just like you, I'm going to echo what you and Mr. Councilman Muscat said. I know that we're going out for bids on this, and when it says not to exceed 5,200, is it because we've already received a payment or something that's it's going to be around 5,200?
Recording in progress.
Okay, if everybody can stop for just a quick second. You all good?
You're good now? Okay.
Do you want anything repeated, or you got everything?
Right after the pledge.
You're not starting over.
Okay. Well, I don't know, he's trying to wave me in, so, okay. So we're all good? All right, so, thank you, Councilman Baydoun.
Well, I didn't hear finish that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I had my
Okay, go ahead.
question was, and I don't know if maybe Mr. Deeb or the mayor.
Yeah, he's on there.
Or
We'll let him
anybody can
answer you.
answer this. The 5,200, let's just say the light is 7,000, but we have it to not exceed 5,200.
They can't hear you again.
So the study's to not exceed 5,200?
Right.
Okay.
Study session only. Mr. Deeb is trying to wave. He'd like to, he can't, can you hear us?
They can't hear us.
He's waving to me on Zoom that he can't hear
He's
us.
saying he can't hear us.
Lost the internet?
Do you
Okay.
want me to put, do you want me to unmute me? I don't know if that'll help, though.
Okay. Everybody on Zoom can't hear us, or is it only Director Deeb? Oh, lost it completely. Okay, so
Recording in progress.
It might have just
if
started
everybody can be
again.
patient for a little bit, we're trying to get the internet going again.
Can you hear it now? No.
Kathy, can you hear us? Kathy Birchfield, you can hear
She
us?
can hear us now?
Yeah,
Okay,
she can hear
she's
us. Can
giving
anybody
a
hear
thumbs
us? Ali Deeb, you can hear us?
Oh, wow.
Do you
Hello,
want,
hello.
do you,
All right, Bill Dishron, you can hear us, right? Okay.
A minute ago. Can't hear you now.
You can or can't?
Now I can hear you.
Okay. Can anybody that can't, because I know there's more that can hear us than can't. So for those that can't hear us, can you give us a thumbs down so at least we could know that you're not able to hear us? Well, I guess if you can't hear us, you can't
I
give
think
us
they
a thumbs
can
down.
hear us now. Wait a minute, they wouldn't be able to hear you.
Just a signal.
Sign language, Council Chair. Sign language.
What was that? Yeah, I know. Can you guys hear us?
Yes.
Can you hear us? All right, good, we're good. All right.
We can hear you now.
This will go on the City Council bloopers show. It's going to be on Wednesdays at 7:30 PM. All right. Thank you, Councilman Tom Wenzel. All right, where were we at here? All right, so back to item 9E. Mr. Ali Deeb, did you want to comment? I know you were trying to comment
Where
earlier.
is
You all
he?
set?
We're okay.
You good? Yep. No, but I think he was trying to comment. Mr. Deeb, you all set?
I don't think he can hear you.
Oh, he
Now
can't hear
he
us.
Now do you want
I
my
think he's
laptop?
frozen.
Would that make a difference?
So I'm wondering if it's just Mr. Ali
But you
Deeb.
guys will have to really, okay, I can't tell.
No, my internet here is working with the Zoom.
Yeah, but everybody's frozen.
No, they're not. They're all
Like,
taking-
can you send him a chat or no? Can you send him something? Like, can you write to him or no?
All right.
Recording in progress.
See, now it's back on probably.
All right, can you guys hear me? Yeah? Or no? They all can't hear. Yeah, they can't
I just
hear.
got booted out.
They can't hear. Nobody can hear us on Zoom.
Is our council chair going to be completed?
They're putting their thumbs down again.
Our room going to be ready
Chambers.
next?
We're waiting for the furniture, so now.
I can't see you, I can see myself. What do you think?
So we,
I can do it in my garage.
Yeah.
Councilman Muscat, Council Chair, they do have the furniture, but they don't have anybody to
What was that?
assemble.
Yeah.
I'll volunteer.
Are we gonna?
No, that's, we gotta make sure, because this is, well, I'm gonna find out from,
So I can see he's out. Should
I
I
wonder if we open the doors, it'd help the Wi-Fi any.
call Dave? I don't know that that's.
Definitely is some good reason here, huh?
Hey, there you go. We won't be meeting here very much longer, though.
Thank you for coming.
The only thing I can think of is to call David Green.
We could take a 10-minute recess and.
I can.
Your friend Nancy probably has something to tell you.
Thank you.
3 in the morning.
2-3 years that I was chair, he challenged everything.
the only issue is that.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Angela's gonna call David Green.
Bothered me.
That, I don't know.
I'll tell you what, he's a.
I don't know that he can do anything.
I dreaded when he went down to
I think we're still.
I'm gonna knock the hair off.
You're not giving them masks to meet in the same way that we basically told them. That's the issue. Could we do this in general? Yes, we could, as of insisting on having all our meetings in person.
Or should I take a recess?
Take a recess, let them fix it.
Yeah, I'd take a short recess.
We're calling, Angela's calling IT right now.
Okay, so
We're gonna take
Madam
a
Clerk,
recess.
can we, I mean, I'm okay with it. Maybe we take a 10-minute recess until they could figure out whatever's going on, or 5 minutes recess?
Do we need a motion to do that?
Yeah, you should bring.
Okay.
Council Chair?
Can you do a motion to?
Council Chair, I make a motion that we
Councilman?
take a short recess to help fix for the technical difficulties.
Sure. So we're going to take, okay, so motion made by Councilman Muscat, supported by Councilman Baydoun. Any discussion? Just for those in the audience and on television there on the camera, we're going to take about a 5-minute recess just to give them a chance. We're having some technical difficulties with the internet, and with that being the case, all the residents and administrators on Zoom cannot hear us. So we're going to see if we could get that fixed. Okay?
Vote.
So all in favor, please state aye.
Aye. Who
Those
seconded it?
opposed?
Mo.
Okay, it was a
Thank you.
motion made by Councilman Muscat, supported by Councilman Mo Baydoun. All in favor, please state aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. So we're gonna take a for those in the audience, just a few minutes until they can get the internet working. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go ahead and get started.
It never stopped. I don't know if you're on here.
Okay, while you're doing that, so for those in the audience and those on Zoom, unfortunately, we've had some internet problems here at this location, and we've tried to keep the Zoom going, but unfortunately, it's going to be coming in and out, and the technical experts that have worked on this have basically said it may come in and out. I'm talking about as far as Zoom is concerned. So unfortunately, we have no other choice but to continue. This is being televised, so for those that are in the audience, obviously they'll see it, and for those that are watching it via TV, they'll be able to see it later, but it's something that's unfortunately beyond our control. I'm also going to ask our Corporation Counsel, Gary Miyake, just to add a little bit on that as far as the legalese are concerned. So go ahead, Mr. Miyake.
Yes, Council Chair, I believe that,
You got to come up to the microphone.
you know what, I'm going to take this off.
Better,
You
much
can hear
better.
me now, right?
Much better.
Yes, in my opinion, we should be fine going forward. This honorable body should be fine going forward with the meeting. Everyone is here who's a member of the public body. We could end up having a pure physical meeting if we did, and we were just doing things in order to try to give people an option if we were in a position where we if they wanted not to attend the meeting in person. So
Sure.
we should be fine, but this is kind of uncharted waters. as I was
Absolutely,
saying.
yeah, unfortunately.
So there may be a problem, but I don't believe that there should be a problem.
Okay, I appreciate that. And like I mentioned, unfortunately, we've had technical difficulties, specifically with the internet, so we'll do the best we can with this. With that, before we continue, I just want to make sure, on Zoom, I'm looking here, I can see Director Ali Deeb. Can you hear us at all?
Shaking his head.
Okay, so at least they can hear us. That's good. Thank you, Michael McCaffrey, too. Thank you, Kathy. All right, so we'll go ahead and continue. So at this particular point, just in case, I'm going to see if there's any other comments in regards to item 9E before we go ahead and take that to a vote. And there was a motion made by Councilman Muscat, seconded by Councilman Baydoun. Is there any other comments on that particular item on beach daily traffic, okay, study? Excellent. With that being the case, all in favor, please state aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda is item 9F. This is Corporation Counsel Miyake, Food Trucks and Food Truck Ordinance.
Council Chair,
Councilman Constant.
I move that the Dearborn Heights City Council refer Corporation Counsel Miyake's February 13th, 2022 letter and attachments regarding food trucks and the proposed food truck ordinance to a study session. The administration is directed to take all actions necessary for the city council to temporarily approve specific limited food truck uses on a temporary basis pursuant to City Code Section 36-254E. Further, the city council's temporary approval of specific limited food truck uses on a temporary basis shall not be deemed to be permanent approval of such food truck uses. Such city council temporary approval shall lapse pursuant to the temporary approval process, with the process no longer being used upon the adoption of a food truck ordinance as outlined in item 9F.
Support.
Motion made by Councilman Constant, supported by Councilman Baydoun. Any discussion on that?
Council Chair.
Councilman Baydoun.
I am going to thank you first and foremost for helping this out, putting this forward. I know I asked you before even being on council back in 2015.
Right.
Thank you to the mayor for allowing this as well. Thank you so much to our Gary Miyake. I ask that we really work tirelessly and really hard on this. I know that Ramadan is coming around. There's going to be some food trucks, some festivals, and that anybody that's watching at home, please come and get your food license or your food truck license. But let me just ask a quick question. Let's just say it's not a food truck, but it's a tent with selling corn out of the tent. Is that going to still be okay to get that license?
It might fall under, again, the temporary approval of specific uses pursuant to City Code Section 36254E. I believe that that could very well also apply. And remember, that's going to involve an application that needs to be made through the building department, and then this honorable body would end up doing the approval.
So we would
And
have to
that's-
approve everyone that applied?
Individually.
Individually?
Right. Yeah, that's what will end up being required in the meantime until you have a food truck ordinance, because the food truck ordinance is going to have to go to the study session, which Council Chair, I know that we, what is it, March the...
April 2nd is the first day of
Beginning
Ramadan.
of April.
No,
study
I
session.
think...
Oh, the study session.
The study session.
I don't believe, as far as I know, because this was the proposal to go ahead and put it to a study session.
Yeah, I
So,
think
Madam-
it's 3-1.
I'm sorry?
I think it's March 1st.
March 1st?
yes.
Okay, March 1st.
So it'll be March
So a
the
week from
1st,
today.
and then thereafter it'll have to end up going to the Planning Commission, and then it would have to come back here. So in order to make things work in order, in time for Ramadan, we'll have to use
The
the
temporary.
temporary process.
Okay. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. So I know you're saying that if, let's just say, Corn on the Corner wants to come and get their temporary license, he would apply through the building department. He'd have to come in front of council, present, and council would either, or not present, but council would have to approve him, and then he'd have the temporary license.
Business license type thing.
Just like a, but what I'm asking you is, let's just say somebody applies for their food license, and then our next meeting isn't until the 11th. Are we going to do any special meetings for these special licenses? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally understand, because the main council meetings, the voting council meetings are on the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month. And with that being the case, then obviously they'd have to have applied with the building department, gotten okay, and honestly, I don't even know, I'm asking maybe the mayor's administration, and it could be Rick Watland, I don't know if he's online. I don't know if honestly if they have the infrastructure in place as of yet for this temporary, but if this passed, and the reason they wouldn't is because we've never passed this. So if this passes, this food truck ordinance has been around for, off the top of my head, a good 4 to 5 years. That this has been in conversation. Yeah, 2015 is when we started talking about this. And you called me at 11:30 at night, but anyways. So this has been around for quite a while. Yeah, he called me 11:30 at night to discuss this. But this has been around for quite a while, obviously. But if we approve this, then at that particular point, the building department would put together some sort of protocols for this temporary license that people would have to apply for. But because we as a council have to approve it after the building department, they'd have to bring it forward to us early enough in March to have enough time to be able to approve this.
Council Chair.
Go ahead, Councilor.
If I may. Again, it's for a temporary use.
Correct.
So in essence, a
Not
use
permanent.
is not necessarily
Correct.
a permit. And so remember, the person who would end up having to apply, there probably would be both the property owner would need to end up being involved because it's their property that's being temporarily used, as well as whoever might be the proprietor who would end up providing these types of services. And that's going to need to be worked out with the building department in terms of the application.
Can I ask for something, and I don't know if this is doable or not. Can the building department simply approve this, or the mayor's office simply approve this without having to come to council temporarily? Because what I don't want to happen is somebody apply March 21st, they don't meet the deadline, they can't open, the business owner never showed up, it's now April 11th, and that's the next time to go ahead and vote. So can we maybe allow the mayor and the building department make that, discretion?
If I may, let me take a quick look. I believe that Mr. Roberts had indicated.
His ordinance was not on temporary basis. His ordinance was on a permanent basis.
Right, but he also mentioned this particular process in his email to the mayor from last year.
Okay, so while our counselor, Corporation Counselor Gary Miyake is looking that over, was there any other comments on that?
Council Chair, I'm wondering, are
Go
they
ahead,
allowed to be on city property? Are they allowed?
I don't believe so. I think they obviously they'd have to get permission from the city, so I don't believe so. But I believe they'd have to go through the city. So at one point, there was ones that were done like that at the Canfield Center, but obviously they had to go through the city and get approval of the city before they did it there. I believe that one was Mr. Mackey's, yeah.
And it was a great, it was awesome.
Yeah, nice event, and I know Hype had done one at one point too.
So that one's actually being switched over to, in Dearborn, it's gonna be, yesterday I
Fairlane?
attended the meeting, it's gonna be at Fairlane with Hudson Jamie.
Yeah, okay. So while our corporation council is looking into that, anybody else have any questions or comments? Are you ready, corporation council? Go
I
ahead.
believe, so it would either have to be the council, it appears, or the ZBA, and the ZBA would probably even be more difficult to potentially pull off.
Yeah, because they'd have to, it's 30 days ahead of time.
Right, I mean, and they don't meet as
They meet
readily
once a
as your
month.
body does.
Yeah, so they meet once a month, and they get on the agenda, it's 30 days early they have to get on, so chances are that would never happen. So it'd probably have to go through the city council. If we had to, I don't mind doing
March
a special
31st,
meeting
can
if
you
we
lock
had
that
to.
in? It's a Thursday, we can let anybody know that if you want to, you have to, we'll approve them on March 31st.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we give the well, let's see first if this passes or not. Okay, so we're jumping ahead of ourselves. So let's go ahead and take this to a vote first. Once we take this to a vote, if it passes, then we got to give a fair amount of days for the administration, maybe the next couple days, to put something together, discuss it amongst themselves to make sure the logistics and what would be involved. And then the mayor's administration, somebody from his administration can get back with us and we'll put it on the agenda. I don't mind doing a special meeting, but I just want to make sure before we commit the administration to all the logistics, give them an opportunity to talk it over, because obviously some of the directors on here have had no opportunity to have had the discussion with the mayor or his administration. You want to make sure that they're able to do this.
One last thing, I'm so
Go ahead.
sorry. Please, count me in on these discussions. I'd really, really be interested in this, Mayor, if that's okay with you.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Okay.
Council Chair, can we make a motion maybe to approve every single one of them as long as they meet the building department code and stuff?
We can, but again, I think I want to be fair. I want to be fair to the administration. I don't want to push things and then just put them on the spot and say, this is what you're going to be approving. You know, yes, we have some powers, but also we have to respect, A, the administration's powers, and B, the logistics involved. You know, because sometimes we approve things and we think, okay, we're all set. But then we're leaving the burden on whatever particular department, whether it's the clerks or building department, whatever you.
Consideration of police
And on a side note, and that's the other reason, the building department right now has a lot of pressure on them with the rental inspections. They have started all over again. So let's be fair to the administration, give them an opportunity to meet, do what they need to do. I'm sure the mayor will get back with me and we'll go ahead and line up something from there. Let's be fair to them before we fully commit them to something. On a side note, I'm all in favor of this, 100%. But let's be fair about this before we just push it right through.
Council
Okay?
Chair?
Councilman, go ahead.
We have something on the books now, though, correct, Gary? Or if...
No,
if-
we don't, but I just see something else in here. Is there any chance that we could temporarily move to a different item and I can talk to the city clerk?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Provided, Madam Clerk, is that okay to do it that way? So go back to 9F later. How much later can we go to it? Is it okay if we get into the next numbers? Because we have 9F, GH. Oh, we got time. We're good. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and hold off on item 9F before we vote on it. At this particular point, we're going to go to item 9G, and that's Corporation Counsel Miyake, termination of special legal counsel and/or related firms, item 9G.
Council Chair,
Councilman Constant.
I move that the Dearborn Heights City Council terminate effective immediately the engagement letter agreement with Ordinance to Wheel and Shank PLC dated July 18th, 2019 as amended and subsequently assigned to Shank and Bruce PLC, plus to the extent that the city or city council purportedly has any legal obligations stemming from them, the city council terminates effective immediately, A, any relationships stemming from this engagement letter agreement, and B, its support for the sub-consultant agreement between Shank and Bruce PLC and Reman Robinson. Further, the city clerk is directed to immediately send written notice of this motion to Ottenwas, to Wheel and Shank PLC, Ottenwas Law PLC, Shank and Bruce PLC, Attorney Matt Shank, Reman Robinson, and Mark Kettner CPA as outlined in 9G.
Support. Motion made by Councilman Constant, supported by Councilman Baydoun. Is there any discussion on that?
Council Chair,
Councilman Muscat.
are we currently paying them for anything right now while they're on hiatus?
There's nothing.
So we're not paying any money to them right now, but it wouldn't hurt to keep a law firm available for city council, as we may need one day. I feel that if we're not paying them, there should be no reason to terminate anything. And if we need to, I mean, we have we have funds in our fund for this.
Council Chair?
Okay.
Well,
So-
Mr. Miyake first.
But hang on a second.
Wait, let's finish.
So, you know, terminating them, you know, okay, they quit. Who's to say we can't go back to them also?
Right.
So, so what's the sense of terminating them if we can pick them again?
Because under that old agreement we signed, and they engaged the CPA firm.
For the audit.
I understand that, but
So-
if we want to do something that doesn't require a CPA, you know, I don't see how you can control your law firm for saying, well, I'll have you as my law firm, but you can't contact another CPA firm.
No, that was done maybe for a reason, but that task,
I just don't see
that
this.
engagement is done.
I don't see this as
We can
something that
always
we need.
re-get them or anybody else.
I
Okay,
don't see
guys,
why we
one
even need
one
to
at a time, one at a
entertain
time.
this.
Okay, and I'm not gonna, we can't ask unfortunately at this point because he's looking up the one on the food trucks. So let's give our counselor time to finish the first one. Is there any other discussion items on this?
Council Chair? Well, go
Councilman
ahead.
Constant.
Yeah, so they were retained by the city council. They in turn retained the CPA firm, Reman Robinson. We got a report from Reman Robinson. There was a retainer agreement specific to that. I think Denise Maxwell signed it. But that assignment, that task, that is done. So you're correct, if we want to re-retain them for something else, just the council, we can. Right now, our city attorney gives us our advice and everything else. If it becomes necessary for the city council to have alternate representation, we'll address it at that point. But this, so do you want them to every month send a letter to Reman Robinson and then bill us for it, or?
Well, they're not billing us for it. I mean, it's done. But this is just saying we're just going to cut them all out. And,
Yeah, if I was them, I'd be sending a letter every month and.
But they're not doing any work. We're not asking them to do any work.
Well, there was some work that was being done by, obviously, the auditing firm.
Yeah, but it's done now.
Right.
Retained, though.
So, well, in my personal view, I think one advantage of something like this, canceling something like this and just starting from scratch, you know, and I'm speaking me personally, as a lot of you are aware, I was not one in favor of the audit. I was all in favor of Plant Moran doing their work, and I was not in favor of spending a lot of this money, and what's done is done, and it's over. But to me, this was something that created a lot of tension in our city, and at this particular point, I think as a city, we just got to move forward. They did their research, they did some of their audits, they came back with I don't know, for me, there was nothing that was earth-shattering with what they came back with, and nothing that made me fall off my chair. So to me, personally, I would like to put this to a close, and let's start from scratch. The new administration is doing some good things. They're on the ball. Let's start from scratch and get this black eye away from us. That's my personal opinion.
Council Chair?
Councilman Constant,
There was at a time 9 different
you gotta get the microphone
lawsuits.
close to you.
There was at a time 9 different lawsuits over this issue. And, I mean, Attorney Matt Shank, he has a lot of familiarity with water charges. He used to be the head of the, I think, City of Detroit Water and Sewer Department. But yeah, the council engaged that firm separately. We may or may not need to do that.
I just think we should move on. Any other questions on this, or did somebody have, Councilwoman Nancy Breyer, go
Are
ahead.
we paying a retainer to these people at this time?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so before we go to the food trucks, Gary, Councilman, you had a question for Corporation Councilman Gary Miyake in regards to if we're paying?
Well, I said we're not paying them any money right now.
Well, here's the issue with regard to when you have a lawyer who still has an open agreement with you. They could potentially perform services without you necessarily authorizing it or expecting it, and then you still have an open agreement with them.
So isn't that on them if they perform a service and nobody's asked them for it?
No, because normally either you finish off the services, and this was for some specific matters that it appears are done and over with. And so arguably, there's nothing too much within the scope of what they're supposed to do at this point, but who knows? And I mean, Raymond Robinson is like $4.50 an hour or something like that. I mean, it's a very high hourly rate. So you don't have to do this, but it's probably nice in terms of housekeeping. And if you wanted to re-engage them, then you could re-engage them if you wanted to do so.
Yeah.
But this is also kind of a strange arrangement. It should have been done as directly with Schenck and Bruce, and it was done with Otten West, and then there was an assignment, and then there was a subcontract, and.
In addition to that, my other comment on this, and thank you, Counselor, my other comment on this is keep in mind, because of the hiring of Plant Moran right now to work, per the mayor's direction, to work with the controller and work throughout the city, basically, as the mayor said, weekly audits almost, of almost every department. With that being there, we were, I don't want to use the words forced, but the right thing to do was to hire a new auditor of our city. So it's going to be somebody totally different from Plant Moran, who has done it for years and years and years. And they've done a good job, don't misunderstand me. With that being the case, we're going to get a whole new auditor coming in to audit us now. Let's put this thing to bed. You've already talked about the complexities, Counselor, of keeping this thing open, possibly some additional charges. What's done is done. They've already done the audit. Let's move on. Let's start a new chapter in our city and keep this thing moving forward, my opinion. Personally, not as a body. Thank you. Any other comments on this?
Can we take a vote?
We're going to go ahead and take it to a vote. So, motion made by Councilman Constant, seconded by Councilman Baydoun. All in favor, please state aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Okay, so we have Councilman Abdallah, yes. Councilman Ahmad?
Yes.
Yes. Councilman Baydoun?
Yes.
Councilwoman Nancy Breyer?
Yes.
Councilman Constant?
Yes.
Councilman Muscat?
No.
And Councilman Wenzel?
Yes.
Okay, so we have 6 yeses and 1 no. Motion carried. Next item on the agenda, we're going to go back. Corporation Counsel, you ready? Okay. We're going to go back. We gave our Corporation Counsel, he had to check on some things as far as legalese is concerned. We're going back to the item 9F on food trucks. And somebody had asked a question to the counselor, if you don't mind answering it.
Right, and Councilman Baydoun had asked whether or not this could be done administratively. And I remembered that there was some provision in 36254, section 36254, that said special events and other temporary uses. One, the city council, the zoning board of appeals, or where applicable, the building official, subsection 36493B, administrative review may grant temporary use of land and structures for special events and other temporary uses subject to certain general conditions. Unfortunately, I've looked at subsection 36493B. It does not appear that it is applicable to have the building official do it as you were asking, Councilman Baydoun. I just wanted to explore that possibility while we were here before you ended up approving, and my reading of it is it's more, it's not quite applicable here. It has to do with reuses of things, and this would be new.
Go ahead, Councilman.
And my next question is, and I don't know if this works, if, let's just say, Corn on the Corner wants to open up at the BP gas station on Ford and Gully, which he will, does Abdullah, who runs the Corn on the Corner, and the owner of the BP gas station both need to come in and apply and both pull fees? Or is it just the one who's going to be, you know, the Corn on the Corner, or is it both the business owner and the one who is using the land use?
My sense would be, and I would want to end up getting Mr. Watland's input on this, because obviously it's his department and they've done certain things like this in the past. My sense would be it'd be one application, but both of them would have to show that they are interested and are willing to accept the responsibility with regard to this, because there are certain things that have to be checked out, electrical, utility connections and things like that. There should be a performance bond that's expected, because there can be a lot of litter that can end up being generated by these types of uses, and that would be what I would expect to end up happening, if that answers.
Yeah, go ahead.
But doesn't this say that all you need to have is written permission from the landowner? So if he just brings in a written permission signed by the landowner, that should be sufficient for the person running the business?
Yes, if that's what the building department's procedures are, then I would say yes, normally. I think it's more of an administrative practicality issue.
So
Okay,
I would
so,
see just a written
Councilman,
permission.
what I would suggest we do is, again, I'd like to repeat, I think let's give the administration / our Councilor Gary Miyake, because we kind of put him on the spot here, he had to look quickly for some stuff. Let's give him an opportunity to look into what he needs to look into for the temporary licenses. Let's let the administration and the mayor's administration look into this. They'll put something together as far as which direction we're going to go, and if we had to, worst case, do an emergency meeting, we'll do an emergency meeting time-wise, but more likely we wouldn't have to.
Right, and by adopting this motion, you will already have authorized this process to take place. It will just be up to the administration to put together the appropriate process and forms, and then bring it back to your honorable body when someone needs to end up being approved. So, I mean, part of it is probably to get it out in the community and let them know that there's going to be a process. They need to be mindful of that, and then we don't have, problems with places springing up without appropriate licensing being obtained.
Let's keep in mind, in the past, we really didn't have a full-blown process, so this might be just a dry run. We try this out, see how it works, we make adjustments, and then eventually, between us and our corporation council, we'll put something more official as far as an ordinance is concerned. Go ahead.
And that's it. Once the food truck ordinance is in place, it should end up being something that would be handled without much difficulty.
Correct.
In terms, and then we could have these administrative reviews and so forth, like you were asking about, Councilman Baydoun.
Correct.
And I know, thank you to the administration and those who are in front of you guys, but I just want us to also just be vigilant that there's very little time. And I just don't want, vendors to be able to come in and start jumping through hoops to try to get this to work out. I want you guys to keep in mind, Dave's Hot Chicken started off in a parking lot, and today it's a multi-million-dollar operation.
Not me, Dave.
No, not. Well, I mean, he's got the millions, but he doesn't own Dave's Hot Chicken.
Okay.
Council Chair, we have the building director on Zoom. Do you think we should?
Yes.
Maybe we can hear from him, see his input on it.
Yep. Rick Watland, go ahead. Can you hear us?
There he goes, he's there now.
Yep, how are you?
Good.
All we would need is just a site plan, and then we would just turn it over to you guys, and hopefully we could get it done before April.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it. And I'm just trying to I'd like for this thing to move forward. I'm just trying to be conscious of the fact that I know you got to put some logistics in. So I don't want to just fully put in all the rules and guidelines right now, because to me, you guys should have your input, the administration should have their input, maybe the police department, whoever else is involved with this, have input before administration comes to us with the final rules. We're just moving it forward, but I want to give you guys a chance. I don't want to discuss too much on this and have us put in the rules right here, right now, without seeing what you, Rick, and your department needs to do and how.
We would definitely need something from the landowner saying that it's okay for that to happen.
Sure. So for you, obviously, get with the mayor's department and just make sure you put something in place, something formal in place, if you don't mind.
Sounds good.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks.
And we're gonna go ahead and take this thing to a vote. Any other? Nothing? All right. So at this point, we're gonna go ahead and take it to a vote for food trucks. This is item 9F. Motion made by Councilman Constant, supported by Councilman Baydoun. All in favor, please state aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next item on the agenda, we've already done item 9G because we had to go back to 9F. So at this particular point, we're going to go ahead to item 9H, and this is DPW Director Conrad, 2021-2022 major and local street budget.
Council Chair,
Councilman Baydoun.
I move that the Dearborn Heights City Council approve the 2021-2022 major and local street budget as outlined in 9H.
Support.
Motion made by Councilman Baydoun, supported by Councilman Constant. Is there any discussion on that?
Council Chair,
Councilman Muscat.
I have some multiple questions on this.
Okay, if you could give me a quick second, Councilman?
Yes, I sure can.
Because I made a call ahead of time to our director, our DPW Director, Conrad, and I asked him if he could come up and just give us just a little synopsis. There was a lot of information on there, obviously, and I want to make sure that all of our council members, before they make the decision, they've had enough information. A lot of them have had an opportunity to review it, but I want our Director Conrad just give us a synopsis as far as where we stand, a bird's eye view, and also answer any of our questions. So is that okay with you, Councilman?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
But he
Go
can
ahead.
stay up there then.
Yeah, he'll stay up there, absolutely. So this is our DPW Director, Conrad, if you could go ahead, please.
So this is just Deanne has noticed that this was never, council never approved this budget. It was presented before my tenure here. So, everything that we're working on this year has already been presented and approved by you. So this is just a motion to continue, or to accept the budget that you guys were presented. I'm not even sure when that presentation took place, but somehow there was an oversight and this was never brought in for council approval to accept the major and local road budget that was presented earlier.
Okay, and I did notice that some of these are obviously from a while back, like one of the streets on here, I know Lila Lane's already been done, and you're just making final adjustments, but that was done a few months back, so I see what you're referencing there. Councilman Muscat had some questions for you. Go ahead, Councilman.
Yes, number one, can you tell me the difference between the definition between a major street and a local street?
So on our certification map, there's what the state considers major and local. So again, I'm somewhat new here, but I mean, a reference for a major street would be Haas.
John Daly.
Yeah, John Daly. Yeah, definitely John Daly, Cherry Hill, Ann Arbor Trail. Those are majors. We have, I believe, 30.05 miles of major roads, and I'm not exactly sure. It's 158, I think, for local roads as our mileage. But it's all based on a certification map that, is approved by the state that we've submitted, and it's basically how we get funded. We actually get more funds for major roads from that Act 51 money than we do for local roads for Act 51.
So, but why I asked that question is because on proposed road projects on major streets, you got Fenton Street. And I'm trying to figure out how's Fenton a major street?
Again, I'm not exactly 100% clear with,
Richardson to Warren and Richardson to...
I'd have to have the CERT map in front of me to answer a question like that.
Can you make that a map available to us too, so we can look at it? Because I just can't believe how Fenton is a major street.
Fenton is but it is a emergency route, I know that
But
much.
it's not a major street. I mean, so she had an emergency route, and, there's a lot of streets, Charlesworth from Hass to Warren is a major street then.
Is it because obviously there's a school and City Hall on that street?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be.
I don't think
Yeah.
that's got anything to do with being a major street.
There's a library, there's
Because I'd like to see that map to see if Fenton really
Okay,
is on that major street.
so Councilman, just to keep things moving.
Yeah, but I'm just saying
I
there's...
just want to understand, is that something, look, I think it's a very important question, don't misunderstand me. But maybe that's something that our director can look into and get back with you with the answer on that. But with that being the case, that's something that's stopping you from voting on this?
Well, no, hang on a second, because
Okay.
it's over $1 million to do that road, okay? And then I
Okay, so
see...
those roads that are on there were just suggestions by a previous administration. We aren't, we'll be presenting a new budget in June, or actually before then, but I don't
Approving it in
see
June.
anything additional coming that we haven't already approved in this fiscal year.
But again, let me keep going, please, because what I'm saying is, that's $1 million for Fenton. But then we got Cherry Hill, that's $1,034,000, and you got it postponed, and Cherry Hill is almost now undrivable.
Yeah.
And I talked to DPW, they're ripping up their equipment trying to clear that stretch of road, and it's costing us a lot of money. So we're putting $1 million on what I think is not a major road, and we're
Wait.
postponing something that...
Councilman, could I stop you for just a sec? Did the internet go out again?
Yes,
Yes, it did.
I'm totally off.
Right,
I was on
I'm
before.
completely off
Are
too.
you on at all?
No, we're off.
I'm completely
Yeah.
off as well.
Kathy texted me, she's on. Oh, you all disconnected from the meeting.
Yeah, we're all
So it's of us
disconnected now.
here.
So, Councilor Gary Miyake, I don't mind continuing, but I just want to make sure.
Again, as I previously stated, I believe that we're fine because we're complying with having all of you here for the meeting. Again, this is unexplored territory, so perhaps someone could come up with a clever way to attack it, but we should be
I don't even
okay.
have
Okay,
Wi-Fi.
so we'll go ahead and continue.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, okay, we'll go ahead and continue. So go ahead,
I
Councilman,
got
I'm sorry.
So I'd like to see if I can, if you could share that map with us and to see, and did anybody do any value engineering on all of this stuff?
Again, this isn't a budget that I did.
Well, and I understand that.
And,
It's connected.
Connecting?
Again, we won't be, from what
Wait,
I've learned from being.
Director, give me 2 seconds. Well, a few seconds. Is it
I don't know.
reconnecting?
It says connecting, but it's not doing it.
Are we back on?
Just keep going.
Nope, okay, go ahead.
Again, from what I've learned from being here is we aren't going to be proceeding without a master plan. So, we'll be, there'll be a master plan presented for, all of our, capital improvement projects, which any of these road projects would be considered capital improvements. So, what we're asking for is just the approval so that we can make this, so when you look at the council claims, you don't see not approved,
Yeah,
in
but
that
if we
column.
approve it the way it is,
I understand that, but again, none of that stuff that's on there is going to take place.
then
This
why,
year.
why are we looking at it?
I don't know, because I need an approved budget for my major and local roads to continue
But
operating.
you stated that we already approved the budget.
Well, it's already been presented, but it wasn't approved. It wasn't presented, I guess, like the water and sewer, Plant Moran presented the water and sewer budget last council meeting, and now we're asking for it to be, adopted and approved.
I just believe we need to have something that tells us what's going to happen before we approve all this money.
Well,
Okay, Mayor, go ahead.
no, I'm just gonna, say, as Mr. Conrad mentioned, this was put in motion before, so it was presented by Plant Moran way back, the previous administration, but it was never put in front of council. So we still, we have, as mentioned by Council Chair, that some of the stuff was already in motion. So
Completed, actually.
Yeah, and some are completed.
Okay.
Council Chair.
Councilman, go
I
ahead.
just want to add to Council Muscat. It says Fenton Avenue. We don't have Fenton Avenue. We have Fenton Street.
Well, but it's still Fenton, I mean.
I know. It's like, where's Fenton Avenue?
So I'm looking at Fenton as a residential street, not a major thoroughfare.
Can we refer this maybe, and then, so it's more detailed?
Chair.
Okay, one quick second. Councilman Constant, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I do recall, maybe it was John Selmy who gave us the presentation.
It was
If,
way back.
if we're approving a budget, then we're looking at the numbers, whether, on the map, whether, like I think Fenton Avenue is Fenton Avenue, but whether this street is designated a local street, we're approving the budget and the numbers.
What the thing is, though, Councilman, is too many times in my 6 years here, we've approved something and then said something different, and then they go ahead and do something different again.
Okay.
Okay? So unless it's in writing, what do you want me to do?
Okay. Gary Miyake, go ahead, please.
Yes, I believe this looks like it's just a matter of housekeeping, that essentially you're adopting a budget that should have been adopted some time ago, and we want to make sure that the Ts are crossed and the Is are dotted, and that's what it looks like. You aren't approving specific outlays of funds by virtue of that. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm not under
It
the...
states it in here.
But it says that there's a budget, but does it approve the warrants and the issuance of the
Look,
checks?
all I can tell you is there's things in here in this document that gives us a rundown of what they want to do, okay? So if it's on here, and I don't like the idea that they're going to do Fenton instead of Cherry Hill Road as a major road, and they do it anyway, then I'm out of luck.
Okay, we would have to present a contract to you to do that first, that you would have to approve. So we haven't done that. So, again, we're approving the dollars, not the projects.
Now, just to reflect on what the director's saying, keep in mind, this is the 2021/2022 budget. So with that being the case, keep in mind that would be from June of '21 until June of this year. So therefore, we're already three-quarters of the way or whatever it is.
Well, I just for the record want to say that this gets approved and something goes on without our approval, that I'm just going to refer back.
I'll resign if that happens.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
No. So one of the options available to you, Councilman, if you felt uncomfortable, because we want to make sure everybody feels comfortable with this. If it's not time sensitive, one of the options available to you, Councilman, is to table this thing until the next council meeting, until you get the information that you needed, provided the director says this would not be the end of the world.
And we
to wait
can work
another
together today. He's been real good working with me.
So if that's the direction you'd like to go, you can make that motion, if it's okay.
I think the comptroller really needs this approved so she can continue, with her budgeting
Council
and
Chair?
completing our
Yes,
year.
Mr. Mayor.
As mentioned earlier, you guys questioned the bill that was from back in 2019. So the new comptroller, she's doing a self-audit, for the department. Whatever we find, we have to put in motion, especially for you guys to approve. This was done, as somebody just mentioned, way back in the day when Mr. Selmy was here. So that was, a year and a half or so back. Some of the streets are already done. So we have to get this approved. So if we get audited and this is not approved, so we're issuing, some of the streets, as you mentioned, is already done. Even Fenton, I remember they were working on that a year and a half ago. So the stuff is already done, but they never put it on the agenda for the council to approve. And I remember when I was on council, Mr. Selmy did present this at the time. But I don't remember putting on the agenda for the council to approve it.
Council Chair?
Okay, so just one quick second. We all set, Councilman?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Councilman.
Look, I will agree This is something that, it's in writing and we're about to make approval, but can the mayor and maybe Director Conrad, who I know you've been working extremely hard, great job. I know you've been doing a phenomenal job, especially with the snow and everything. Can we get an updated list, maybe email to us this coming week? We'll approve this, but get us something back in writing showing what has been done and what is looking to be done. And then maybe we can have those discussions, what we feel like really need to be done. So we can approve this, but we'll get something updated. That way everybody feels, and like you said, this is a dot or i's crossed T. There's nothing that's warranted here. This is just approving of the actual budget.
That's fine.
I think that makes everybody, I think he sleeps better at night. We're expecting something from you guys. And that way, we're now no longer being audited or we're not behind on anything.
Right, I can work with Mr. Martin from Wade Trim and find out exactly what of this fiscal year has been billed and.
In a second.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Nancy Breyer, go ahead.
Well, I think the reasoning for Fenton being done, from Ford up to George, is because you've got a library, a city hall, and a school there. So that would appear to be major to me. And Cherry Hill is also on the list, and both are in the same position of, what's the letters they got beside it here? Cherry Hill is in a postponed position, and the other one is listed as reconstruct.
I also want you to know, Director Conrad.
Wait, Councilman, 1 second.
I'm done.
You all set? Okay, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. Wilson, I don't know if it's Wilson Ave, Wilson Street, Wilson Drive. It's so bad.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll be on the list.
Okay, next up is Councilman Tom Wenzel, go ahead.
Thank you. This doesn't explain any kind of scope of work on any of these projects. Where any of these projects take place, they will have to be presented to us, the scope and the cost for each one. I think the big mistake made here was listing all these projects instead of just asking for a specific amount of money. This is something you came up with to show how that money could be spent or is being spent. So
Again, this is in my presentation, so.
Council Chair?
I think we should just go ahead and vote on this and pass this.
Yeah, so.
Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
I remember even when I was on council, I remember some of these streets, the bill actually came in front of council. The council approved the bill for the company to actually get paid for some of these already. So just because you have it on here, it doesn't mean, okay, it's gonna, you guys are approving even the money. Any check, obviously, after a certain amount, it still has to go in front of council for approval.
Right.
So again, all we're doing here is for audit purpose that it was approved, even though that was way before my time being in this office. We still have to get it done, obviously. We're looking at all the documentation, as we mentioned earlier, a few weeks ago.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. So.
Guess what, we're back on.
Back on.
We're going through all the stuff, we're self-auditing, we're making sure that everything is done properly.
Yeah.
So that's some of the stuff you gotta see a lot.
Okay. Are we back on Zoom?
For right now, we are.
Mine is not logged back in, but okay, that's fine.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Pictures are.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and vote on this, and this is DPW Director Conrad, 2021-2022 major and local street budget. Motion made by Councilman Baydoun, seconded by Councilman Constant. All in favor, please state aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Next item on the agenda is DPW Director Conrad, 2021-2022, water and sewer budget.
Council Chair.
Councilman Councilman Muscat.
I move that this be moved to a study session. Because there's way
Wait.
too many questions
Okay, well,
for me.
so that's your motion?
Yes.
Or, okay, because I just want to make sure it's okay.
Support.
Okay, so motion made by Councilman Muscat to move this to a study session, supported by Councilman Tom Wenzel. Okay, any discussion? I'm going to make first discussion. I would like to state and just remind you guys that we already had a discussion and presentation on this by Plant Moran. So we are just approving what was already discussed with Plant Moran during his study session, just in case. So Mayor,
Council
would you say
Chair,
something?
that's exactly what I was gonna say. It was presented at a long discussion in a study session.
Correct.
Yeah.
But, you know, council, well, we have a motion on the table. We
Okay.
can vote it down or vote it yes.
Sure.
And let's go do that, and we can, if it votes
Okay.
no, we can open it up again and.
Beautiful. So motion made by Councilman Muscat, seconded by Councilman Tom Wenzel to take DPW Director Conrad 2021-2022 water and sewer budget to a study session. All in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
No. Those opposed, no.
No.
Madam Clerk, can you please take roll call?
Yes. Council Chair Abdallah.
No.
Councilman Ahmad.
Yes.
Councilman Baydoun.
No.
Councilwoman Breyer.
No.
Councilman Constant.
Yes.
Councilman Muscat.
Yes.
And Councilman Wenzel. Oh, you're.
But deciding vote.
Yes.
Okay, the motion to move it to a study session has passed 4-3.
Okay. So motion made by,
I just have a quick discussion. I know we voted, but I just want to reiterate one more time for everybody that's paid attention. We had a presentation on this for 1 hour.
right.
The presentation still didn't address a lot of questions of why the people are paying what they're paying for.
I respect that.
So I want the people to know what they're paying for.
And I believe, Councilman, we agreed that there was going to be a more detailed.
Absolutely, and I don't see anything.
Water
here.
bill.
Water bill, you know, and
I don't
somebody.
see anything here.
Okay.
And we asked for a flat rate for the water meters.
Write down what you
Yeah.
want.
Give them a Hall's cough drop, will you?
I gave him the whole bag of Halls. There you go. Okay. So, motion's been made and motion's been carried to take this to a study session. So myself and Madam Clerk and her team will put together a study session on this. Councilman Muscat, just in case, so at least Madam Clerk and myself know who you want there. Do you want Plant Moran to come back and present again, or who is it that you want?
Well, anyone can be there. Plant Moran can be there, DPW has to be there, I would assume, our mayor. I just want to go over on how we're billing people. I got a million questions here on how unfair billing is to the city. People don't know what they're paying for. All they do is they pick up a water bill and they say, my God, I'm paying $500 for water and sewage for 2 months, okay? This was all done in a presentation by Plant Moran, and they said they used a model. Is this model 5 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old, where people were paying $50 or $60 every 3 months? Now you got people paying $500, $600, $700 for water in 2 months. This is ridiculous.
All right.
And there's ways that we can save money.
So we've gone into a discussion. Let's go back to who you want here specifically.
Well, whoever wants to be here, they can have
Okay.
Plant Moran
so
be here.
Maybe we'll have Plant Moran and
Wade Trim,
our treasurer
excuse
and
me,
whoever else. Okay. We'll put something together for you. No problem. Madam Treasurer, you had something to say?
Thank you, Council Chair. I just want to add that I know there was a study session, but I've heard from council members with their concerns. And as your treasurer, my job is to make sure you direct me, you legislate me, how to collect that money to pay the 21 bond
This has got
payments.
nothing to do with the 21
Well, it does,
bond.
because if it's included in your rates, what I heard you say was we want the meters to be per household, this is how much it costs on my household. Because if you're using more water, that person using more water is going to pay more for their meter than the person who uses less. That's what I heard you say,
That's
correct?
unfair.
So for me as a treasurer, what I want to just reiterate is I need that direction from you.
Okay, so you
How
can be
you want me to collect that money so I can make the bond payment. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Treasurer. All right, so we'll go ahead and set up a study session on that. Next item on the agenda
I'm
is,
so sorry, before we move forward,
okay,
we're going to have the study session, right?
correct.
Ultimately, it's to see, it's more about a detailed bill and what people are paying for, correct, Councilman Muscat?
Well, yeah, it's going to be more of a detailed and why we're doing what we're doing and why we're not using other funds that are available to the water fund, like ARPA money, that could lower our bills. I don't care if it's for 1 year. That's a savings to our citizens. So, I've got questions written down here, and the best way to do it is a study session, ask those questions.
Okay. All right, we will go ahead and set up a study session. Next item on the agenda is item 9J. This is Police Chief Myers, purchase and payment of firearms.
Go ahead, Ray.
Council Chair.
Councilman Muscat, go
I
ahead.
move that the Dearborn Heights City Council approve the purchase of 5 S&W M&P 45 firearms from Bud's Police Supply in the amount of $2,300. In addition, authorize the mayor and the comptroller to sign a warrant and the treasurer to issue payment from the police ammunition account 101-300-744.000 as outlined in 9I.
Support.
Motion made by Councilman Muscat, supported by Councilman Constant. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next item on the, and motion carried. Next item on the agenda is item 11, ordinances and resolutions.
Council Chair.
One second. Item 11A, this is from City Clerk Senior, resolution to change the polling location at Campfield Community Center to Crestwood High School for precincts 11 and precinct 12.
Council Chair.
Councilman Baydoun.
I move that the Dearborn Heights City Council adopt a resolution to change the polling location at Canfield Community Center to Crestwood High School for precincts 11 and 12, and that the city clerk, on behalf of the city of Dearborn Heights, commence the process of such resolution in accordance with the Michigan election law as outlined in 11A.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Baydoun, seconded by Councilwoman Breyer. Any discussion on that?
Council Chair?
Councilman Tom Menzel.
In our previous discussion on this, on items on the agenda, it was brought up several times that the clerk has issues with this. Do you have any issues with this, Madam Clerk, or is this something that, what's your opinion on this?
I'm taking your direction. It's going to be work, but it would be work, we have a precinct to work, to move as well.
Right.
Recording in
That's gonna be the next
progress.
item. Right.
But I will take your direction.
I know, but the question is it more difficult on the clerk's office?
Well, we're going to have work to do, yeah. We're going to have to reassess the polling location. There is going to be work to do, yes. I can tell you that.
Okay.
Is it something that's very hard to do, or is it something?
Never done it.
You never done it? And you've got to do it at a couple locations this year?
We do, we have to do, well, we have the two resolutions on here. We do have to move St. John the Baptist, and we're putting that at John F. Kennedy Junior Library, and then this one proposed over to Canfield.
All right,
Or, I'm sorry, over to Crestwood.
Crestwood, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Does it work?
I had some concerns on this, and I know during the initial session where members of the audience had an opportunity to be able to speak on agenda items, and I know some of us had an opportunity to speak with our Director of Recreation Department, Kim Ramsell. I have some very serious concerns, and I sat in on this particular meeting myself and the mayor. I sat in myself as the council chair, the mayor, Madam Clerk, and the deputy clerk. And at that particular point, there was nothing too earth-shattering that came up, but most, at least for me to reject this. But more important than that, I've always been of the opinion, I don't want to be the end-all in making decisions on behalf of the total body. So with that being the case, all we did, myself and the mayor and the clerk, when we voted on this, was just approve to bring it forward to the city council so that we could, A, as a body, 7 people make a decision, and B, have the residents give them an opportunity to be able to discuss this with us before we all make a decision, and C, have the administration be able to give their input, in addition, of course, the clerk. Since that, and of course, in addition to listening to Kim earlier speak, our Director Kim speaking to us about this, in my opinion, me personally, I'm against moving this, and I'm gonna tell you my personal thought process. A, I do know that this is gonna be problematic for the director and the recreation department. I do get it. I do get all the logistics. I do get the difficulties and all that. But more important than that, in my opinion, like the resident mentioned earlier, I think voting rights, and I know you're not trying to give away voting rights. I totally get that. But people have been used to going to that particular place to vote for 60-plus years. And unfortunately, in a perfect world, everybody would go out and vote. Every resident that is able to register would register to vote and would go out to vote. But the reality is, for most voting dates, we get out of registered voters. It's not out of all residents. This is only out of registered voters. We get, best case scenario, unless it's a presidential election, 12, 14% of people voting. So very little people go out to vote anyways, unfortunately. Key word is unfortunately. And since very little already don't go out to vote, the moment they get to their precinct to vote, and this is where they've been going 30, 40, 50 years, or, I don't know how long our councilman here has been going, for quite a while, but, and then suddenly you tell them, well, no, you're not going to vote here, you're going to vote in a different building, it's a building down the street, and it's something that they're not familiar with, the chances are there may be some people that may just leave. And sometimes there could be a language barrier, just a lot of logistics. So to me, and I'm sorry to our director, but we've done it for 60-plus years. I think for some of the gymnastics, and I get it, I love gymnastics, but maybe for those 2 days.
Recording in progress.
Maybe for those 2 days, we could work out a plan B, maybe have them maybe go to the school, maybe we could talk with Canfield, I'm not sure, I know he's very giving. Maybe we could talk to one of the dance studios, I don't know, or maybe just have those particular 2 days off. Whatever, but in my opinion, I think we should continue to have voters vote where they've been used to, and not, even if we lost one vote, that's one vote too many. Me personally, and I'm speaking personally, not on behalf of the body, but I'd rather have one person maybe not do gymnastics that day than lose on one voter. That's just my personal opinion. Thank
Council
you.
Chair.
Councilman, go ahead.
It's a tough decision. I don't want to lose revenue, but then I don't want to be held hostage and say, well, I'm not coming if you hold elections at this center. And my fear is at Crestwood, with all the cars in the parking lot, where do people park? Where do the handicap park? Then they got to walk, they park at the Canfield Center, then they got to walk through the little fence they got cut out at Crestwood there.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about, going down the grass, or they have to walk all the way around. That's crazy. I mean, we've got to make it accessible to these people. And that's not me saying it, that's the law saying it. Okay? That's the law saying it. So if we moved it to Crestwood, how are we going to enforce the law to let these people park? It's going to be impossible. Either that or the school's going to have to shut down that day.
They do.
They usually have
Well,
been.
if they do, then, and the parking lot's going to be empty, then that should be a consideration.
They have been the last 4 or 5
Okay,
years.
so the schools will be closed on election days, the 2 days a year.
They usually do, yes.
Yes.
Now remember, we're not shutting down gymnastics, obviously. This is just for those 2 days, that's it.
I understand that,
And,
but
yeah.
my big concern was where are the people gonna park, okay? Because we can direct traffic to the Crestwood School for voting, just like when, I've been in worked the polls myself a few times, and people come in and they don't even know where to vote, and then we direct them where to go.
Yeah.
And they sometimes they're grumpy and sometimes they're not, and they get in their car and they go to the proper polling place.
And sometimes they don't go vote, they just keep going.
Unfortunately, they don't. I've had people come in and they were making mistakes, 7, 8, 9 mistakes in a row, and then finally the guy just threw his ballot up in the air and walked out, and I'm saying, well, now what the heck am I gonna do with this ballot? Okay, because it's not spoiled or anything, what do I do with it? Okay, so you're gonna have situations arise no matter if it's the proper polling place or not the proper polling place. My concern is with the parking for the people, especially those handicapped people. And now I'm being told school will be closed, so I think that's rectified.
Okay, thank you, Councilman.
And
Any
it's
other?
only right next door.
Councilwoman Nancy Breyer, go ahead.
Yeah, and I've worked the polls since 2009, and if the people really want to vote, they'll go. And it's close to the place that they're already going. So the parking is taken care of with the school being closed. And I don't want to have us lose revenue or wreck equipment by having a 2-day problem. I really look the other way.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Councilwoman Nancy Breyer. Councilman, go ahead.
And I just want to make it clear, this, I know we said this in the beginning, that there's going to be times where we're going to agree to disagree, and that's okay. You know, things are going to come up here, it's a check and balance. You know, the administration is going to bring things forward, and the council is going to make that decision. Ultimately, I think this decision should not be moving a polling precinct that's been somewhere for 60-plus years. That's just my personal opinion. I've had residents call me, and I asked a couple of questions. Me personally, I went to Crestwood, it's easy. I'm not going to vote at Canfield. I'm going to go ahead and vote at Crestwood. Guess what? Not everybody feels that way. So, and I'm just expressing this to my colleagues on here, that there have been some residents that voiced their concerns who vote at precincts 11 and 12, who've been voting there, even like Councilman Muscat, who's been there for
50 years.
52 years. He's given himself
50 years. Come on now, don't add that anymore, okay?
Hey, Mo, we have already changed some of the precincts around in the last few years. We downsized. We used to have 3 at Thorn, we're down to 2.
Yeah, and I will tell you, Councilwoman, had I been on council, I'd be voicing my opinion as well back
Right.
3-4 years ago.
And I think Lynn may have already talked to Crestwood, have you?
Yeah, but they were approached prior to 2020.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Council
So we're
Chair.
going to go ahead and, Councilman Tom wants to go.
When I moved into my house on Tulane Street almost 30 years ago, I voted at Party Elementary. It was 1 block away from my house. And then about 10 years ago, they changed my voting precinct to Madison, which is like 10 blocks away. And, I mean, it was just a different, I never thought anything of
Recording
it,
in progress.
except, go vote there now. I mean, this is the way it was. I mean,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Council Chair?
Councilman Constant.
So Councilman Baydun's motion is to not move the polling places.
No. Councilman Bidun's motion was as presented.
Okay.
As presented.
Yes. And keep in mind, a motion has to be made as presented in order, and it has to be seconded in order for discussion to happen. So I believe you're just trying to open it up for
I'm just
discussion.
opening it up for
But
discussion.
you made the motion, but you're.
It's not changed. It's
your
as.
position
Now, the
is
vote
that-
is to either pass it so that we move precincts 11 and 12, or to vote it down and not move precincts 11 and 12.
Right. Okay. Any other discussions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take this to vote. All in favor of this motion, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
No.
All right, Madam Clerk, can you please take roll call?
Council Chair Abdullah.
No.
Councilman Ahmad.
No.
Councilman Baydun.
No.
Councilwoman Breyer.
I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly. Are we moving or not moving with a yes vote?
So to clarify, if you vote, just to clarify, I'm not telling you how to vote, I'm just
I know,
clarifying.
I know.
If you vote yes on this, it will be moved. If you vote
Correct.
no, it will not be moved.
I'm a yes.
Okay, Councilman Constant.
Yes.
Councilman Muscat.
Yes.
Councilman Wenzel.
yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay?
And the only reason I voted yes is because of the parking. Just to make
Okay.
that clear.
So motion carried. Next item on the agenda is City Clerk Senior, resolution to change the polling location at St. John the Baptist Catholic Church to the John F. Kennedy Jr. Library for Precinct 20.
Council Chair.
Councilman Constant.
I move that the Dearborn Heights City Council adopt a resolution to change the polling location at St. John the Baptist Church to the John F. Kennedy Library for Precinct 20, and the city clerk, on behalf of the city of Dearborn Heights, commence the process of such resolution in accordance with Michigan election law as outlined in 11B.
Support.
Motion made by Councilman Constant, supported by Councilman Muscat. Is there any discussion on
Council
this?
Chair.
Councilman Muscat.
Couldn't we find someplace closer to John the Baptist and our John F. Kennedy Library?
That was the closest, and actually, we wanted to do it to Robichaud,
They already have.
but they're doing major construction.
They're
Why
doing
are
We're
we-
doing major construction in August, because that's when the schools do theirs, and they're not able to move that. So the only other option we would have would be to move it and then move it again.
Yeah. Madam Clerk, just for clarification for some of the council members and of course members of the audience, if you don't mind, and I don't know if you can or can't discuss it, but during our meeting, you discussed as to why we're not at St. John. Do you think, is it okay to mention as to why?
St. John closed probably.
Well, but they used to let us, you said, even while they
They
were
did.
closed.
They
Right, so-
closed probably over a year ago, but the
Right.
past year in 2021, they allowed us to have it in the building without heat or without air, because I think they did have to bring in heaters, but they've turned the water off there as well.
Right, so I just want to clarify to the audience
So-
that in this particular case, unlike the previous one, we don't have the option
Correct.
of even doing it there. So the proposal is to switch it over to the John F. Kennedy Junior Library at Van Born, just west of Telegraph.
We couldn't utilize the, where we have our meetings,
The
of Education?
On Beach.
Board of Directors?
I
Board
don't
of
think it would be
Education?
big enough. We were in that building, the administrative offices.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
And the
this
parking
year's,
lot's a mess.
this year's elections aren't big elections.
But then you would be moving it, and then you'd have to be telling
It'd be
all
a
those
double
voters
move.
again to move it and then move it
Well,
again.
we're going to have to do the same thing with this, okay? I'm just trying to keep it
No, we
real
would be
close.
keeping it there.
Yeah,
Oh, you're going to keep it at?
Yes.
yes.
The
Yes,
library?
yes, and they, like you'd have it in your own building if you can.
Mr. Mayor, you had something to say? You all set? Okay.
Could we
Any
move it
other
to
discussions
Canfield?
on this? Council- I know you said
I think we move it to Canfield.
it.
And essentially, Councilman Muscat, I think the furthest one out, the furthest voter out is only .1 mile
Point one?
further than it would be to go to St.
Okay,
John.
all right, thank you, that's good information.
Okay. The good news on this, in this particular case, again, as the clerk mentioned, we have no choice to be able to hold, it's not an option for us to hold it at St. John the Baptist Catholic Church. The good news is John F. Kennedy Library on Van Born is at least a known site. Our building, it's a known site, it is big, it's convenient. So, you know, okay. So now we're gonna go ahead and take this to a vote. Any other comments? None? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and take this to vote. All in favor of motion B for resolution to change the polling location at St. John the Baptist Church to the John F. Kennedy Junior Library for Precinct 20, please state aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Next item on the agenda is new business. This is for business license renewals, item 13A.
Council Chair?
I thought I was
I
gonna-
can't hear who said it. Oh, Councilman Tom Wenzel.
Thank you. I recommend that the Dearborn Heights City Council renew the business license of Cordy's Collision at 27100 Van Born and the Van Born Tavern and Grill located at 22426 Van Born as outlined in 13A.
Support.
Motion made by Councilman Tom Wenzel, and based on the voice, I believe that was Councilman Hassan Ahmad. So motion made by Tom Wenzel, seconded by Councilman Ahmad. Any discussion on that? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and take this to a vote. All in favor, please state aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried.
Council Chair,
Yes, Councilman.
I don't know, does this come down as new business?
I'm gonna go ahead and let you do that one during the council.
Okay, thank you.
Member announcements. So at this particular point, we're gonna go ahead to members of the public and administration. The first item is item 14A. This is comments from council members.
Council Chair?
Councilman Tom Wenzel.
Thank you, Council Chair. We're winding down on Black History Month, and I'd like to set some examples of famous people in Black history. And normally you go back, 50, 100, 150 years or something. But we've recently had some history made by some exceptional black women in the Olympics. Erin Jackson, speed skater, first black woman to win a speed skating medal. Congratulations to her. And also Elena Myers Taylor. She's a bobsled participant. And she's won more medals than any black woman in the history of the Olympics. And that just happened recently last week, so congratulations to them. Also, at the end of the meetings, I like to talk about the families in Dearborn Heights. And one thing I'd like to talk about today is about a situation that happened probably about 5 years ago, I think, where a young kindergarten girl was killed at one of our local schools, where a lunch table fell on her, Liliana, and her mother, Tabitha Kerr, has been fighting very hard to get a law passed, and she's tried 3 times and failed. It's called Liliana's Law, and it's a thing about safety for our children in our schools. You can go to the website, Liliana's Law. It tells you a lot of stuff there. You can go to lilianaslaw@gmail.com, and you can email Tabitha. It's something very important. We are monitored and regulated by safety regulations in our home, in our vehicles, and in our schools to some extent, but this is something that's very important for our children's safety and for our families. And so go ahead and check that out. It's Liliana's Law. Also, I'd like to congratulate our DPW again for a fantastic job on the snow. Great job, except when you plowed my driveway after I shoveled it. But that was fun to go back out there and shovel again. I had the kids out there. And speaking of the DPW, we had a lot of complaints about the GFL and the garbage pickup, and I know there's changes coming. And Mayor, could you give us an update on the garbage collection situation?
Council Chair, I was going to actually do that when I make comments. Can we wait?
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I have one question. Director Lawrence Sell, I got a question. Now, recently I was in the Richard A. Young Center, and the restrooms there in the lobby are continuing to be closed. What's going on with that?
We're in the process of getting a contract. We're making our council, the city attorney is putting together a template contract so that we can put that forward and award the bid for it. So there's some discussion on what needs to take place next.
It's been quite a while, though. What's the holdup on that?
We had to go out to bid twice, and then we had to stop, and we're waiting for a contract.
Okay. Is that something you see happening pretty quick here? It's kind of embarrassing, you know, your lobby and your rec center, your restrooms are closed. You know,
Yeah.
I know that the locker rooms have restroom facilities, but you know, that's back in the back. Is that's something you see correcting?
Yeah, they have to go back and use the ones in the shower rooms,
Yeah.
but that's going to be taken care of soon.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I had not so much a comment to make, but I had asked our DPW Director, Robert Conrad, if you could come up for a sec. I talked to him ahead of time about this. We've had a lot of residents complain in regards to potholes. And no, not just in our city. I've heard it in every city. So this is
Too much salt.
northern United States type of thing, you know, across the board in almost every city in the United States in the cold weather. So I want to give them an opportunity to give us a general synopsis of what's involved, what issues they're dealing with, what their program is, et cetera, et cetera. So I asked them to give us a few minutes because a lot of residents are asking about this, about different roads, whether it's Ann Arbor Trail, Beach Daily, Annapolis, et cetera, et cetera. So our Director, Conrad, please go ahead.
Okay, so we're actually in a very difficult time right now. Unusual week with the large temperature swings. We're going from single digits to days like today where it was 55. We're going from snow and freezing conditions to, you know, a day with a lot of rain. All those things make it difficult for us to patch. Not necessarily, I mean, it doesn't make it difficult for us to patch. It makes it difficult for the material that, you know, is used by everybody nationwide for coal patching to, you know, keep that product in the hole. Water, you know, makes it difficult to stay in the hole. The freezing temperatures, you know, when there's snow and ice in there, the material will stay in there, but then as soon as it warms up and that turns to water, then, you know, the traffic pounds that stuff out. The problem we're experiencing is, you know, we're out there every day in many occasions patching the same holes over and over. And it's not a product of, the staff doing anything incorrectly. I mean, they actually have really good equipment that they're using. That the hot box that they purchased a few years ago is, something that, departments that I've worked with in the past had been using those for, 10, 15 years. And they're the latest and greatest thing for making the product easy for the employee to shovel, giving it a longer life than it would if it just was shoveled off the tailgate of the truck. So I mean, it's hard to say that, you're getting the best product you can when you see it put in the hole and you drive by the next day and it's gone again. I understand the frustration, and believe it or not, the guys out there doing it, have the same frustration that they're out there every day doing the same thing. But, we do our best to get those wheel busters. I think that's the best term for them, because the large ones are exactly what they do, is they bust your wheels. So we're being as vigilant as we can to get those, to minimize those things. The only thing I can say as a user of the road myself, is, this is a time when you need to put your cell phone down in areas where you have bad roads. Most potholes are avoidable. I mean, not all of them are, but, a good majority of the potholes are avoidable if you're paying attention and, you try to avoid the holes. It's what I try to do. Yeah. And, I encourage everybody in my family that, has to pay those bills for the wheels, to do the same thing. But it is something, that will benefit, any resident driving around is, make mental notes where those holes are. I mean, know where you should be. I mean, maybe, Beach Daily is a 4-lane road, but, if you don't use those outer lanes, or you stick to the center 2 lanes, I mean, you can pretty much go up and down Beach Daily without having an event. In Cherry Hill's kind of the same way. So, I mean, we're doing our best to make it, so that we minimize those inconveniences of people getting flat tires. But again, we're struggling with weather and conditions. And, once we get into, March and April, when things warm up and dry out, we'll be able to put that patch in the hole and it'll stay in the hole.
Director, what is the system or the best form of communication that you prefer if a resident drives by and sees, one of those holes, to let you guys know about it? Do you have any particular system in place, or is it just a matter of calling DPW and letting you guys know? I do know that one of the things that you always prefer is, instead of somebody telling you, there's a problem on Annapolis, just east of Telegraph, let's say, instead, in front of which address, I know it helps you guys out a lot. But what is the preferred method that you prefer residents to let you know when there is a pothole or they see one?
Right. So the quickest method is to give us a phone call, Monday through Thursday, from 8 to 4, and, we'll get it to the crews right away. I do have the crews working, extra hours, getting those holes. They're also out there, surveying the roads, looking for them, looking for those areas, themselves. But it's, anytime you can get additional information from the residents, that's good. I mean, and, some of the local roads, we're in residential areas, we get holes there too. Again, our speeds are usually slower in those areas, as compared to, Ann Arbor Trail and Beach Daily and Cherry Hill. But, we do want to know about those. We do, also prioritize things too, so I mean, every pothole is a concern to us, and I know the pothole in front of your house is your biggest concern. But, again, if it seems like we're being unresponsive, it's probably because, we're evaluating what we have to do, and we're putting our resources to the worst locations first. So, but, if we do get that phone call of a pothole, it will get addressed,
What phone number should they call you at?
The 313-791-6000.
Council Chair, the Director, if someone has an issue with a pothole on a road like Van Born, do you have a contact number for that, or any other county road? I know Van Born's pretty bad, and it's right in front of your office.
Yeah, so the county has their 888 road crew number, and you can call that. They also have a website. Unfortunately, I think it's just waynecounty.com, DPW or DPS, maybe. I should know that.
You said 888 Road Crew,
Yes,
CREW?
that one gives you a person to speak with. They'll take a service request from you and pass that on to their road crews. But there is also an online one. I'm sure if you went to the Wayne County website, there's a link to their service request. But for those, believe it or not, I have made a service request for Van Porn this week. But it never hurts to have more service requests. They're just like any other department, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. But they do the same thing we do, is they evaluate based on, priority and severity. But I think Van Porn qualifies as severe.
For sure. Thank you.
So does Annapolis.
Council Chair.
Let's have Councilman H.
Age before beauty, or is it beauty before youth?
No, please, that, I went the last time.
Okay. Number one, unfortunately, I don't think Mr. Dishroom can.
So is this for
No.
Director Conrad?
No,
Okay, so let me just make sure he finishes. Do you have a question for Director Conrad?
No, I was going next.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Director, much appreciated.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Director.
All right, go ahead, Councilman.
I don't know if Mr. Dishroom can speak on this. I don't know if we're connected.
The internet's working. I'm looking for him.
He's unmuted.
Mr. Dishroon, are you on here?
Yeah, he's on, I
Yes?
just
Oh, there he
unmuted
is.
him.
Okay.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Okay, yeah, we can hear
Mr.
you. Go ahead.
Dishroom, thank you for being here. I keep getting the same phone call about trash and how it's picked up at the corner of Kinmore and Ford Road. Is there really a problem there, and are you dealing with it?
Is that at the business, Councilman Muscat?
Pardon me? It's a
Is
business,
that at
yes. It's a business, yes.
the,
We spoke about it, why they have regular garbage cans and not a dumpster. You told me that they purchased their own cans because they don't have room for dumpsters, but is it a messy area that you know of?
we've had some issues in the past. I don't know if there's been an issue recently. Did you get a call on it in the last week or so?
I can comment a little bit about this particular one. So I've been out to that particular site with our previous director of ordinance, and that was an issue at the time. And while there, our ordinance director was there, I was there, the owner of the building was there, and then we talked about why don't they put a dumpster, but the bottom line is, according to them at least, there was no place to be able to put a dumpster, so they had to go with the same type of carts that we use on residential, but instead they use two of them. But I do agree with you, there's always a lot of garbage there. A part of it is because I think there's, if I'm not mistaken, 2, 3, maybe even 4 businesses that use these carts, and it's just not enough. The reality is, from what I've seen, and I'm not the expert in ordinance, but from what I've seen, absolutely positively, they need a dumpster. The only issue is where to put it. There's no place to put it, except they'd have to put it in front of one of the businesses on Kinmore, the first business going north. It's a small business. But otherwise, in a little alley, it's a skinny alley. It's not a traditional alley, so there's no place to be able to put a dumpster. This is from what I've seen.
But I'm just saying, if they set their trash out on a normal business time, like we're all supposed to, and all the trash gets picked up and they take their cans back in on a regular cycle, then we really don't have an issue. But I want to know if there's an issue there, we need to do something about it if they're going to continuously have a mess.
It's a case of needing a dumpster, but I'm sure our director.
Yeah, I haven't personally been out there, and I haven't had complaints about that recently. I know it was an issue before. But what I'll do is I'll go out there personally tomorrow and take a look at it and see myself what's going on there, and I'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Another, go ahead. One more thing, another couple things here. This, I guess, is to Mr. Mayor about the Warren Valley Golf Course.
I'm going to discuss.
Okay,
that.
then you're going to, and how are you going to address the shortage of workers at the DPW? I spoke with our Human Resources Director today. She told me how the process works. There's 4 people on a list. They're trying to get all, but my understanding now that there's more than 4 people that are needed. It's like closer to 7 people. And if we need 7 people, shouldn't we go out and advertise for that now? Why are we waiting? Is my question.
Yeah, I know we discussed that a few days ago, and we were looking at the list to see, one of the things is we discussed also the background check on the ones that we have. And I know we're going to go through the list again, and if need to, we will definitely go ahead and put it back for advertising.
But I'm saying, if we know we need more than 4, shouldn't we be already asking for people within to sign up for this, and why haven't we?
Well, there was a list, it was listed before, so we do have a list. We're going through the list right now to see, and one of the things we're looking at is the background check on some of them. So we need to go back and see how many is going through the background check.
You wouldn't have to have a background check if you already work for the city, correct?
No. If you work for the city, no.
But that's what I'm saying. These jobs aren't being offered right now from within, so why aren't we not offering them, posting them from within to see if these people want these jobs?
Well, let me go back and look at it, because I know there's a process. I know it was advertised internally before.
I promised someone I'd ask, and if you can keep in contact with me and let me know how that goes, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll check tomorrow.
And then I want to discuss this. Go ahead. And now I bring something forward to the council. I know we had an opinion letter by our corporation counsel on the planning commission and things of that nature. And I was at the last planning commission meeting, and I asked the question, is special land use come before council? And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that you said it does not.
It does not.
Well, I just printed this off today, and it's off our municipal code. And I can't see how you can say that when it says, City Council, in accordance with the procedural condition defined in Division 3 for special approval uses, has to come before City Council.
Special approval uses are not necessarily the same thing that you're referring to.
So
there are conditional uses which come before the council. There are also different types of approvals with regard to site plan and also for special land use. And frankly, I wish I had had an opportunity to actually see this before. I would have been able to tell you why this is not pertinent in this particular situation. And it's kind of difficult to do it on the fly. I just ended up seeing what we have here. I'll be glad to end up addressing this issue. And I think the problem is that what you're referring to actually is Section 3693.
Correct.
Which speaks more generally in terms of a certain table. I don't know if the reference is to the table being approved by the council, in which case it has to do with an ordinance approval, which ultimately has to be approved by the council, or if it's talking about specific types of things. I know the provision with regard to like special land use specifically says it's the planning commission that ends up making the decision. So
but let me ask you,
Councilman,
and the reason I
if I
brought
interrupt
this,
you, maybe just to be fair to our attorney, if you don't mind, if you could hand him that, we'll go to the next council person's question, unless you had a different question.
no, but-
And then we'll come right back to him, so give him a chance to read it,
But
to be
the
fair.
thing is, he knows exactly what I'm talking about, because he referred it, okay? But my question to you, and why I brought it up to you, and I had said it before, what do we have to do to change that? And you said it was an ordinance change, to bring it before this council to approve things of that nature.
Yeah.
And why I'm bringing it up today is I'm going to ask my colleagues to put forth a motion and have you do that as soon as possible. Because even though, just like the big structures that are going up on Ford Road, we had nothing to do with this at all. And I know there was certain issues going on with that, and thank God we had Ollie Dean, okay? But, there's people here that dig, okay, for information, and we found information. And this is some things that the Planning Commission, I think, dropped the football on. And here I have a body, and I've said it before, I got a body of, 9 people or whatever it is, making decisions for an entire city, and guess who gets the chunk taken out of the rear end? It's the elected officials when things go haywire.
So-
And myself, if I would make a mistake, I want to be the one to make the mistake, not somebody else, and coming back on me. So what do I need to do to have you change that ordinance as soon as possible where we could have it read?
I think I explained that before, but basically that requires, first of all, I think there needs to be a consensus on specifically what it is that you would want to change. And there is no consensus as far as I can tell. Councilman, you weren't at the meeting.
Correct, because I was away. I was not allowed to be on it because I was in Florida. But yet other council people were out of the country and were allowed to be on.
Right.
And I have not understood that whatsoever.
Okay, but basically.
And I couldn't even come out as a citizen.
Right, because you're a member of the body and you have to be physically
Well, people were
present.
a part of the body when they were in Mexico.
It was the state of emergency.
But it was prior to December 31st.
So
What was the state
prior
of
to the
emergency,
change in
being
the
in
law.
It was
Mexico?
prior.
COVID. You were catching COVID in Mexico.
It was authorized under state law for them for Councilman Baydoun or whoever.
Okay, let's not go off subject. Let's get back to the
Right,
question
so
at hand.
I mean, that was allowed, and I'm not saying anything negative with respect to you not being able to be present, Councilman, but my take on the way it was looking from observing this body for many years in many different forms with many different members was there's no clear consensus in favor of your position. I think there needs to end up being
By
that.
whose clear consensus? By whom? This body?
Yeah, I
Well,
know
then I
you're-
think we may put a motion for it and vote and see what this body says.
But this body has not, this is more complicated. Do you want to end up approving everything that the Planning Commission does?
No.
In which case, you're going to find yourself basically having, this meeting's like 3 hours right now, plus you ended up having a prior meeting. Throw in the Planning Commission meeting, especially something like that last Planning Commission meeting, and watch your meetings go for 6 hours. And I don't know that this body would necessarily want that to end up happening. perhaps.
I go back to the point where it came before us to do a approval of the drive-through at Starbucks. Then we didn't get any notification at all on the drive-through at Van Born and Gully. And I just don't understand how this is working. One I do, one I don't.
Yeah, well, there are certain things that this body ends up approving. Conditional rezonings, and a few other things, but
Well,
generally.
Starbucks
most
was
of the
not a
authority-
rezone.
Most of the authority ends up being held by the Planning Commission. That's just.
So they get authority over a lot of things, and then the city residents come and beat up on me.
Well, but Councilman, this body, a predecessor version of this body, decided that that's what they wanted to end up doing. And they probably decided to do it because they were concerned that the meetings would be too long, they wouldn't have the time to
Well, when you
necessarily-
become a public servant, you've got to be here till midnight, you be here till midnight. That's what you
Amen.
get elected for.
That's right.
And that's how I feel.
All right,
Okay?
well, but that's, you know,
And
that's up to-
and matter of fact, I said that once from the podium as a resident when somebody said, well, you're taking too much time. Well, wait a minute. What's too much time? I can be here till 6 o'clock tomorrow morning when I have to be at work. You're the one that, we ran for these positions. We ran for them. We went out to knocking on doors, okay? And I've got people that get appointed to make these decisions, and I think that's wrong.
Okay, but just for clarification, Councilman, what I believe Gary Miyake is saying is obviously.
I know
there's a
what
reason-
he's saying.
There's a reason we put a commission together, we put the planning commission together, is that, so that they can make decisions on most things.
maybe we could clarify a little bit more what things we want to make decisions on.
Respectfully,
But it doesn't
Councilman-
make sense for us to make decisions on everything they go through.
Respectfully, Councilman, the Corporation Council said that a body before us changed it, and this body here can change it back.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
either you want it to change back, we put a motion on the table, we have a second, we vote on it, and that's the way it is.
Okay.
Okay,
well, what
so
I'm-
he's saying there's no consensus for it here. And I want to see if there's a consensus.
If I may, two things.
Go ahead.
One of them is you would have to, first of all, give a direction, and then the ordinance would be prepared. It would have to go to the Planning Commission, first of all, for review.
My
There would
ordinance
have
has
to
to
be
go to
a-
them?
Yes, because that is what is required under the city ordinance as it currently exists. They end up doing an initial review.
State law says that?
The ordinance, the zoning ordinance says that that's how it has to end up being done.
So that we change the zoning
Do you
ordinance
recall-
that
do you
says
recall
stop that?
Councilman, do you remember the hookah lounge ordinance?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Do you recall me standing in front of this body saying, look, if you do this ordinance is going to be thrown out in court? And I said that.
And it was.
And it was. All right? So that was one of the bases for it happening. So, you know, I'm telling you the same thing that I ended up saying back then, and the court basically said, yeah, I was right.
Well, I'm going on record saying I think it's garbage.
All right. Well,
And you're not, I don't believe that, I believe that you want to see a consensus, but for some reason, I'm being stopped from having a consensus.
well, you guys could,
And then you're saying that I need to have this or that. Either we have it all like we did before, or not. I want it like it was before.
Council Chair, you know, like I've stated several times, I was on the planning commission for 15 years plus probably, but, and like I said before, we never approved anything. Everything we did, every motion made was that we recommend the city council approval of everything, every motion we made. And it was stated by, I believe, Mr. Miyake, that things were changed in, I don't know, 2007 or something, but we asked for the motion or the paperwork or when that changed, and we haven't received anything yet on that. I'd like to see when that was changed over, the power was taken away from city council and given to the planning commission.
And what was
specific-
changed?
And what was changed on there, because I talked to a former chair of planning commission, Rick Coogan. He was chairman for probably 12, 15 years, and he agreed with me that the planning commission never approved anything, every motion made, because we, like I said before, we were interrupted by our corporation counsel on a motion. If we said we recommend, we approve, he said, no, you have to recommend the city council for approval on your motion. That was a standard motion, and if it was changed, I'd like to see when and change and what was changed, what powers were taken away, what powers were given to whom.
well, if the body wants me to end up looking back at what changed in 2007, specifically with regard to the planning commission, I believe I advised the body that the entire chapter was revised. If we wanted to narrow the scope of your direction there, certainly I will end up looking into it. I will talk to the city clerk. I know that Mr. Roberts, who you're referring to in terms of corporation counsel, was one who actually drafted this ordinance and actually sent me a communication saying specifically with regard to special land uses that it was done in 2007, and he specifically cited the ordinance, which I also cited to you, which basically ended up saying the planning commission makes these decisions with regard to special
Well,
land use.
I asked you to change it back.
Okay.
Right, but in my view, there are two things. One, if the council as a body basically says to do so, or if the chair basically tells me to prepare an ordinance, or if the mayor tells me to prepare an ordinance, then I'll do it. I'm under the impression that maybe there's not a consensus with regard to that specific issue. If there is, then, or if one of these, if the council's body says to do it, if the council chair tells me to do it, or the mayor tells me to do it, I'll prepare the appropriate paperwork.
That's not a problem. Council Chair, I make a motion that city council have our corporation council change the ordinance in regard of what I'm speaking.
Oh, prepare a motion.
No, prepare an ordinance to
That
have
we
it
could
change-
vote on.
That have it changed the way it was, like it was before, 2007. That's my motion. Now, all I need is a second and a vote.
It's not on the agenda.
I don't care if it's, I'm making a
second.
motion. Councilman, okay, we've done this in the past.
Okay, but.
I've just
but I
made a
think there's-
motion.
But I think there's protocols that we have to follow, so if we're gonna go in that direction, let's make sure we're following the right protocols. I don't believe we could add a motion right now.
suspend the
Counselor,
rules.
yeah, we'd have to suspend the rules first, correct?
Yes, you'd have to suspend the rules and add it to the agenda, or just suspend the rules and then
Okay.
consider the motion.
City Council, Council Chair, I make a motion to suspend the rules for one day and add this to the agenda.
Council Chair, if I may.
Okay, well, let's see if somebody's gonna second it
Second.
first, and we'll see. Okay. Motion made by Councilman, this is just to suspend the rules at this point.
Yes.
Yes.
So a motion made by Councilman Muscat to suspend the rules, seconded by Tom Wenzel, Councilman Tom Wenzel. All in favor? First of all, any discussion? Nope?
Council
Okay,
Chair.
well, is this on suspending the rules or on the
On the
planning
main
commission?
issue.
No.
If it's on the planning commission, one second, let's just go on to
We got a
suspending the
motion.
rules. All in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, so we have Councilman Wenzel,
Yes.
Councilman Ahmed,
Yes.
Councilman Bedun,
Yes.
Councilman Abdallah, yes. Councilman Muscat?
Yes.
Councilman Constant?
No.
Councilwoman Breyer?
No.
No. Okay, so we have 5 yeses, 2 noes, motion passes.
Council Chair, I make a motion now to have our corporation council draft an ordinance to change the planning commission sequence the way it used to be before 2007.
Support.
Council Chair, are we open for discussions?
Yeah, I'm going to open it up 1 second. So motion made by Councilman Muscat, supported by Councilman Tom Wenzel. Open for discussion.
Council Chair,
Go ahead.
before moving this ordinance forward, which I understand your frustration, by the way, Councilman, I know this is something you have been, voicing your opinion day in and day out, I think for many years, and I completely understand your frustration. But what I don't want to do today is go back to a motion that I don't know what it is. And there was a reason why it was changed. That's number one. And
That's
look,
because people didn't want to be here till 12 o'clock.
well,
That's why
well,
it was changed.
but I also want you to keep in mind here, Councilman, that this planning commission is also, and hear me out real quick. These are people that are appointed by our administration, previous and present, who are also being paid. You go to Wayne County right now, there are committees all day that are operating throughout Wayne County. And it's unfortunate, and when somebody's gonna come to you and yell at you, they have to also keep in mind that they have to understand that there are different chains of commands. That's my first discussion. My second discussion is, I understand his frustration. I can tell this is something that's really bothering the councilman, and if it's bothering him, it's bothering me. But what I also don't understand is, I don't want to approve something without knowing what it is. So why don't we see what it used to look like, present it to the council, let us see what it is, and if it makes sense, then we can make that vote.
All it was everything that planning commission does.
But there's a reason
comes
why
to-
they change it.
Because again, like he said, you don't want people being here and keeping this meeting till 4, 5, 6 hours.
Hold on, Councilman, I'm so sorry.
That's
And then my next thing is, maybe our mayor can speak up on this, how do you feel about this? I mean, at the end of the day, you're appointing people to these planning commissions, right? Or to the zoning board, to these different commissions. Now it's as if we're taking things away from our mayor and what he's doing. So my question is to you is, how do you feel about that?
Again, I'm going to go with Ms. Senia said earlier, it's the council body, you guys make a decision.
I understand that, but you're also making a decision where you're appointing these, so does it become obsolete, where there's no more planning commission?
No.
There's no more?
No.
Then what's the purpose of having a planning commission?
Planning commission is an advisory board.
They do
to
all the
us.
legwork.
Correct, so are
They
you
do all
asking
the
that,
legwork.
no matter what, based on what the recommendation is, it comes back and we ask for approval?
Yes,
And we're not.
just like what you were elected to do.
Okay.
For the residents
So
of the
then why
city.
would we be here till 12 o'clock? then?
Well, because people will be here arguing at you, yes or no.
Okay.
Council Chair, that's why I asked for that document originally, it's like Councilman
I would
Baydoun
wanna
was
see a
asking,
document.
let's get that, then we can see what was in, maybe there's something, oh my gosh, what do we, of course we're gonna do that, oh my gosh, why'd they do that? And in all fairness, the planning commission, myself and Councilman Muscat was at the last planning commission meeting, and there was discussion on an issue that came up in the past in November of 2021. And they asked how many of these 9 members on the planning commission were there in November of 2021. 1 was there. There's 8 new members. So it's nothing like somebody's been there doing this work all the time. We have 8 new members in the last little over a year. 8 out of 9. So it's not like a body, that body decided to do that in 2017. None of them were there in 2017 or 2007. So let's review this whole thing.
Thank you, Councilman. So at this particular point, with no other discussions, we're going to go ahead, I'm sorry, Gary Miyake, go ahead.
If I may, I mean, that planning commission meeting should be a warning in terms of the amount of time that you might be looking at. That matter involved a denial of a particular use and a lack of making appropriate findings of fact and conclusions of law by the commission. And now they're going to have to redo everything based on the record, and that's going to be likely to be a very time-consuming, fact-intensive sort of thing that this body would potentially end up having to do the same sort of thing. You could be talking about hours for each, for some of these more controversial things. And you may want to end up doing that, and that's fine. It's your choice, but ultimately it's something you need to be aware of before you end up getting to that point.
We got to wrap this up, so quickly, Councilman Constant.
Quickly. So generally speaking, the experts look at the project first. Like with Starbucks, we heard Starbucks and the car wash, we heard from the architect, the people on the planning commission, they have some background.
Do they?
Hold on, Ray.
I don't think they do.
Okay,
So
hold
you
on,
weren't
hold
at that
on.
last meeting.
I understand what you're saying, but what happens is then for every project, especially then it's all up in front of the city council and it can be arbitrary. I don't even know if that would hold up in court. So having said that, we understand what Councilman Muskett's concern is. We understand what Councilman Wenzel's concern is. Let's let Gary do.
Well, let's take a vote. We have a motion on the table.
Let's let Gary do a proposed change and give us the background. And then before we decide we're going to do up a new ordinance, was the change a requirement of state law, the way we, and Councilman Wenzel is correct. The Planning Commission always says, we recommend that the city council approve, blah, blah, blah.
For a change in the zoning ordinance, it has to go to the Planning Commission for review and comment and recommendations to come back before the council. The council ultimately makes the decision with regard to any ordinance changes, with regard to the zoning ordinance or otherwise. But it needs to start there because the idea is that they will consider all of the ins and outs and how these changes can end up affecting other things that the council normally doesn't deal with.
And they can have hearings, people can come, and then it comes up, because so we could be here not till midnight, till 2 a.m. going over, so someone wants to put in a bar on Ford Road and.
Don't run for public office. You don't want to be here.
The planning commission, they're the experts. There's a certain procedure.
I'd
They
like to
have
know
the
what the
hearing
experts are.
first.
We have one architect on that whole board.
So what you're saying is, let's get rid of the planning.
No, that's not what I said. You're putting words in my mouth,
they-
just like a good attorney does,
Right.
okay?
They don't
Don't do that to me. I'm smarter than
All
that.
right, so let's go ahead and take this to a vote. So, any other, Councilman, you had a quick comment?
You know what, I just want you to know, especially somebody, Ray, who I really look up to and I really respect. I don't like voting against you. I just don't.
You need to
and
vote
I know
your
it's
heart.
a democracy, but my heart is, I just want you to know, so to the residents at home and to Ray Muscat.
vote your heart.
But just hang on real quick, Councilman. I'm making, you're asking me to make a rational decision on a vote that I've never seen. So you're making a decision very hard on all of us, not just myself, but everybody else here.
Well, it's not a vote on an ordinance, it's just a.
It is, it's asking me to adopt something that I've never seen
Not
before.
adopting it, just looking at it, drawing one up and looking
We're
at it.
telling him to write an ordinance. You still have to vote on it.
No, you're saying adopt the old ordinance that we were once like before.
Correct, and then you have to vote on it.
I know, but what he's saying.
I
the
wanna
councilman's
see
saying,
what I'm
I wanna see
approving.
it too.
But how are you going to see it if he doesn't write it?
I understand,
No,
so why
but
does, no,
he's
we're
saying,
not,
why
we're
doesn't he
making a
provide
vote right
us
now
a
to adopt the
Okay,
information.
that's fine.
Okay.
Everyone do what they need to
Let's
do.
vote, let's go ahead and take this to a vote. So we're gonna go ahead and take this to a vote. If we're gonna go with Councilman Muscat's motion.
And can we repeat what it is? the
You wanna
motion?
repeat the motion again, Councilman?
Really?
Yeah.
You've been arguing against it for a half hour, and then now you
I'd
want me
just
to
like to
repeat
hear
it.
exactly what we're voting on.
I want him to write an ordinance changing back whatever was changed in 207 back to what it was originally before 207.
So that would show us what was changed.
Yeah, but for him to write.
That's my motion, Councilman.
Propose.
It's my.
Come on, man, point of order. Point of order.
Point of
For
order.
God's sakes, do I got to put it in writing
Point of
now?
order.
And limited to the planning commission, right?
Limited to the planning commission. Is that correct,
Yes.
Councilman? Yes.
And this would show us what was changed.
Correct.
And
then you'd vote yes or
I
no.
think we should still add in there that Mr. Miyake show us that document to see why it was changed. Yeah, I mean, that's very important.
Right, and then you're gonna be able to vote yes or no on it. You can still vote no on
On
it at
the
that
new
point.
proposed ordinance.
Right, so you just get, basically what he's voting on right now is for us to be able to see it and vote yes or no. We wanna change it backwards or continue as is.
have that
And we can't vote on that until a later council meeting, once we have it in front of us.
Councilman Muscat, can you change that to add the documentation that was?
That doesn't need to be with the motion,
Yes,
just
I
give him
think-
direction to.
That's direction to give it to us.
That's not his motion from the beginning and from
Yes,
early
it-
on.
yes,
His
it-
earlier motion was to adopt the rules to what it was back in 2007.
That's what I.
That was the motion.
And the motion was for the, okay. I started off, then the council chair, I asked the council, corporation council, what needs to be done? He goes, an ordinance change. Well, then I make a motion to change the ordinance back to the way it was prior, before it was changed in 207. And that's what you're gonna vote on.
You're asking to prepare an ordinance.
Correct. And then once he prepares the ordinance, it comes before you to vote yea
Right.
or nay.
But the only reason I'm clarifying this, I don't want the council people to think we're voting on approving that ordinance right now.
No,
There's no
you
ordinance
can't,
in front of us.
there's no ordinance in front of
Correct.
us.
I'm just making it clear to the council people. Okay. So with that particular motion that the councilman just mentioned, all in favor, please state aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. I want to see the ordinance, so it's.
Aye, I want to see the ordinance as well. If I'm voting on just the
As long
ordinance,
as
aye.
it's
I still
clear.
have a direction
Okay.
on which way I'm voting.
So to be totally clear, Madam Clerk, can you please take roll call?
Council Chair Abdallah.
Yes.
Councilman Ahmad.
Yes.
Councilman Baydun.
Yes.
Councilwoman Breyer.
Yes.
And Councilman Constant.
Yes.
Council Chair Pro Tem Muscat.
Yes.
And Councilman Wenzel.
Yes.
All right. Did I miss anybody?
Okay, unanimous
Council
roll,
Chair, can we,
motion passes.
when the ordinance is prepared, can we see it in the studies, the next study session before we vote on it?
Well,
He prepares it,
he
we'll be
prepares
able to
it,
then.
we put it on the
At
agenda,
least we can discuss it in the study session.
and then we'll discuss it, of course, at the council meeting.
No problem.
In
Council Chair,
No, at least if
I just want to.
Wait, let him finish his comment.
At least if we can study it in the next study session in case there's something we need
If
to
it's
change.
ready, we could.
Correct, yep.
Council Chair.
It's our option, well, my option, you can propose it and I can make a study session, no problem.
Commission meeting first.
Council Chair, I just want to understand something, and now we voted on it and it's coming, right? But he's not preparing anything. All he's going to be doing is taking what it once said in 07, and he's going to bring it back to this council, and he's going to hand it out all back to us. We voted that he brings back a.
No, Councilman, I believe what's going to happen, he writes the ordinance to change it back like I requested it. Then you get to vote on it, yes or no. And then you have a first reading and a second reading.
There you go.
Because it's an ordinance change.
First of
Okay.
all, it has to go to the planning commission
That's right.
for review before you vote on it, all right? Then you can end up voting on it after it goes to the planning commission.
Fine.
They
So
review
let's just
and
say the
comment.
planning commission votes it down.
Planning commission just makes recommendations on ordinance changes. There would be an ordinance change, they could tell you, bad idea, and you could sit there and say, we're gonna do it anyways, and make some tweaks to it, and have a first reading and then a second reading.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
We're back
All
to.
set on that? Any other comments from council
Yes,
members?
Councilman.
Councilman.
I just want to, just for clarification, I know Councilman Muscat earlier was saying that I was in Mexico speaking. We were at a time of a state of emergency throughout the county, so everybody was via Zoom. It wasn't just myself in Mexico while everybody else was here. So I just want to clarify that for the residents, and I know you meant no harm by that, but I just wanted to clarify it. Yes, I was in Mexico. It was my first city council meeting that was pre-planned before beginning on to council. So I was able to be via Zoom. Unfortunately, I agree with you, though. I don't see why he wasn't allowed to attend the last study session or council meeting.
So he attempted to get on and he wanted to get on, but per the rules.
I personally contacted Corporation Counsel, so we did not break any law.
I just want you to know, though, Councilman, there are school board members who are out of town where they are able to meet hybrid, both D7 and Crestwood School District, where that was allowed. So I don't know if it's a ordinance or if it's a state or a county, but it was allowed. I'm just, and again, I'm not going back and forth. It could be, they could have broken the law. We're not breaking the law.
I respected Corporation Counsel's
And
theory to
Councilman
me.
Muscat did contact me to attempt to get on. It's not
Yes,
that I didn't want to allow him. it's
yeah,
just the rules.
Corporation Counsel said it would not be wise for me to come on, even as a citizen, because I could be in a decision-making position, and it could be a potentially violation of the Open Meetings Act, if I may be
That is
correct.
correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So I just wanted to clarify that. Secondly, today, I think our council made a huge decision in changing a voting precinct. I am very unhappy with that. I'm going to tell you guys publicly here for the record. I'm going to find a way to help hopefully one day re-adopt that, and so we're back at Canfield. I'm sorry, I think that's a terrible decision by this council, by this body, but that's just exactly how I feel. I'm not speaking exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a democracy, and I respect everybody's decision, but I really believe that was a very poor decision by this body. You're talking the largest voting precinct in the entire city of Dearborn Heights is now being shifted to right next door where, and I'm going to be honest with you, to the clerk and to this body, I'm going to hold everybody here accountable and making sure that it is very visible. And if those numbers come down and it's no longer the highest voting precinct, I'm going to look at this body here and say, look at the numbers. The numbers are there. And I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that maybe we can move on forward with 60 years of a new generation. Who knows? But I personally think that this was a terrible decision. And I'm going to stay with that. And I'm just being a little emotional about it because this isn't something, I know this was brought to us last year, it was voted down, and it was brought back to us again, and it passed. So, and that's the, that's the beauty of democracy, but it was brought to us last year.
Okay, thank you.
In response to Mo, I'd like him to know that the primaries sometimes have 30 people or less show up.
Yeah, Councilwoman, I wouldn't use just on
Not
the
in
lowest
11 and
turnout on a primary election.
Primaries are 10% sometimes, maybe 12 max.
Correct, but I would hate to see us go
Then-
from 10 to 4.
Well, we cancel St. John's, and these people are older.
But the
80
only
years
reason
more.
we canceled St.
St.
John's
John's,
because
there
it
was
shut
no
down.
choice.
Yeah,
That
that
one,
was
there was no
indefinitely. If Canfield
Right.
shut down, I'd be okay. But Canfield's not shutting down. We are using Canfield Center strictly for gymnastics. And that's what I came up with today. It's not being used for anything else other than gymnastics, it seems like. We're not using basketball. We're not utilizing it on any other situation.
We've already voted.
I understand that, Councilwoman, and again, I'm sharing my frustration so that the residents at home who know, I made a promise to defend, all residents, and there are residents that approached me and said, I don't like this, and so I want them to know I'm defending them. That is
Okay,
it.
thank you, Councilman. Any other members of the council? Go ahead, Councilman Constant.
Thank you, Council Chair. We've done good so far. Let's continue to follow procedure, be respectful at our meetings. There was some discussion a couple of meetings ago about, it's free speech, we can yell and swear, and I don't agree with that. I mean, I've been on the council the longest, and we conduct the city's business. People want to come and address the council, address their concerns. That's fine. There are other ways people can communicate with the city, with the mayor's office, with city council members, with email. It's almost instantaneous. Let's not use Facebook as a form of official communication. But yeah, let's keep our meetings respectful, follow our procedures, and nothing, I'm not mentioning that at all because of Councilman Muscat's passionate concern, which I voted for. The golf course, there was some discussion, or I saw some people saying, well, we did something in secret. The situation with the golf course was an emergency situation, and we're doing what we can to rectify it. I think years ago, the running of the golf course, when it was run by Wayne County, was largely ignored. And there were some good years, and then some years when you couldn't get a hold of anyone there, and there were no events. So the council's not trying to do anything in secret. The requests for bids are out there. Hopefully, someone will come forward that can run the whole operation and do a great job.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Any other council members?
The mayor.
Yeah, I'm going to let the mayor, of course. Nobody else? Okay, Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Council Chair. Okay, so few items. You guys mentioned the first one about DPW with patching the holes. I actually asked Mr. Conrad, to do that, and just within a day or so, he did have the trucks out on both Cherry Hill and also Beach Daily. They have a couple of people reported they had a blowout. And I actually watched the drivers. A couple of times I went by that area, they were actually patching holes. And I live down the street. Just within 3-4 hours, I drove by that nothing has ever happened. Even though I watched them patch the holes, the stuff was gone, as Mr. Conrad mentioned. So they are going around, and they are patching some of the potholes. So the other item, the golf course, and I agree with Councilman Constant. Instead of people posting stuff, and I've heard the same thing, Councilman Constant, the rumors spread like wildfire. I've gotten a call from a resident that he asked the question, was smart enough to actually call my office and ask me, and it was just simple, 5-minute conversation versus some of the stuff that was posted on Facebook about the golf course. So I guess, my point is, instead of posting something, assuming, just call my office and I will tell you whatever it needs to be told. But on a golf course, obviously, that we had the closed session because it was a legal matter, and we don't discuss legal issues or legal matters in public or in open meetings. We've been doing it for years, especially when it comes to personnel or litigation. So just for public, the golf course, we did go out for bid last Thursday. We have a walkthrough this Thursday for anybody who's interested. Even if they're interested, they still don't have to come and do a walkthrough, but it's encouraged. We had, just today alone, excuse me, I hate these masks. So with, we did put it up, for bid last Thursday. We did put a press release, so everybody, whoever wants to, they can bid on it, and they can actually see it was posted in 2 local papers. And I actually got a call today from 2 entities out of state, and they were actually, they saw that, and there was a company that handles a few hundred golf courses worldwide. They reached out, they wanted to, the details, so I did send them the details. There's another entity out of Georgia, and also same thing, they were interested. So I did also send them this information. So this is not, as some people are assuming that, it's not out there. It's out there. If people call me from other states, obviously these people are more aware than the people spreading stupid rumors. So I had several entities locally also that reached out. 2 entities actually went to the golf course and they looked at to see what they can do, or because they wanted to bid. They went there and they called me a few days ago and they were asking me more details. So with that, we actually, because of the sensitivity with the timing of this, I did ask Mr. Miyake, and he worked, no, I just need the mask dry in my throat.
He needs a hall.
Yeah.
Give him some halls, Councilman.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
I offered already.
So, Mr. Miyake worked around the clock to get a contract going with the golf course. And we had a lot of meetings, a lot of hours. We discussed a good contract to go out. So we had 3 proposals. One proposal is to, for people to manage the banquet. The second proposal, or for people to actually manage the golf course. The third proposal is to manage both the banquet and also the golf course. One of the things that we're looking at is not just say, I want to come in and I want to manage both the banquet and the golf course without putting some type of investment. And Mr. Miyake and I, we discussed this. One of the things that we're going to look at is who's going to spend money, who's going to put an investment in both the golf course and also in the banquet for to do modifications, to do whatever that they need to do to operate both the golf course and the banquet. I can tell you right now, there's a bad roof leak coming through in the banquet. So we did discuss this, and it's not suitable to do any kind of banquets in the banquet hall right now, especially when it rains. I was there several times in the last 3 weeks, and especially when it was raining, and I saw there's water coming through indoors. So we did discuss it. So the current company, not to mention the name, they're supposed to vacate that facility by the 1st of March. So again, we're getting tons of phone calls from people that are interested in doing events, and also they have outings, leagues. So we are taking names. We did ask the entity, is currently there right now, because they did make arrangements with that entity that is operating the golf course, that they have to, up to May 1st, it's their responsibility. They have to do what they can, because they never signed an agreement with the city or the new entity that will be managing the golf course or the banquet. So when they vacate the premises on the 1st, the city will take possession of both facilities, and basically will be, hopefully by that time, we'll be getting bids from the various companies or entities that will be interested in operating either or both. So with that, obviously, we did talk about this. It would come in front of council for approval. And again, we're looking at whoever's going to invest money, not just to come in with nothing, as we had in the past, without putting a penny into this facility.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
And milk the city. That's not going to happen again, not under my watch. So we are looking at this very carefully. And again, I've talked to several entities. They're willing to put money into the facility, and they want to operate it. But again, we told them, put a proposal. They do have the proposal on hand, and hopefully we get a bunch of them coming in next Thursday this Thursday for a walkthrough, and by the following week, then we'll start getting bids in. This is very time sensitive. We have to, as we discussed in the past, we have to make sure that we get this golf course up and running as soon as possible, because in April, the golf season starts, and depending on the weather, we do have to honor a lot of, I talked to two different groups today. There's one group that has 500 golfers that actually been doing it for at least 20, 25 years. Right. We definitely don't want to lose those folks to somewhere else. So we do have to get this golf course up and running as soon as possible. And I'll keep the council up to date, when next week when we get the bids. And again, we talked about having a special meeting once we get that. And I will keep you guys informed. Regarding the garbage collection.
Council Chair, can we ask a couple questions on the golf course while we're at this topic before we go to the next one?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Go ahead.
You got 3 minutes.
Yeah, just a couple things. What's the deadline for these bids?
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday? Is that kind of quick? Is this 2 weeks?
Well, that's 2 weeks, yes.
Okay.
And even 2 weeks, we got a lot. Big entities like like I said, this one golf, this management company is managing a few hundred golf courses worldwide, and they're aware.
That's
so
not
people,
Donald Trump, is it?
Okay. So your plan, your goal is to reopen by April 1st. That's what you mentioned. That's the goal.
I would say no, because when Mr. Miyake and I, we sat down, we looked at timeline.
Yeah.
Okay, any entity that comes into the golf course, the roof has to be replaced, probably more than likely. So there's no ifs and buts about it. The roof has a lot of issues. We have to, like, say, for example, you still have to go in front of council. We get that next week. We still have another 2 weeks to go in front of you, maybe a special meeting a week later. And then we still need another month for somebody to come in and just pretty much, they probably have to gut a lot of the kitchen, the 2 kitchens we have upstairs and downstairs. Again, without, violating certain things. Mr. Miyake, go ahead.
Thank you. And one other thing, we're entertaining temporary as well as more permanent types of proposals, because we might be able to get good proposals that will take care of things in the meantime, and then aim for those investment people, those people who would want to be here for a long-term commitment, who will make a substantial investment to basically take care of certain things. And,
You're talking like a, not just, I'll talk 15, 20-year lease or something like that agreement?
Or perhaps 7 to 10 years.
7 to 10 years, something
along
like
those
that,
lines.
yeah.
Sure.
That's long-term.
Sure.
Now,
And Councilman, I'm sorry, it depends also how much money they're going to put in. As you know, we talked about Mr. Mackey's facility. Obviously, we thought he was going to put a few $100,000 to modify the building, but he ended up tearing the building, and he spent a few $1 million on that building.
Yeah.
So there's no investors going to come in. I mean, one of the things that we had, when I had a call, somebody proposed to tear the building down, the banquet, and put another building. So it's going to cost roughly $4 or $5 million. Nobody's going to invest that money for a 7-year contract. So this is something we have to take under consideration.
100%.
And anytime somebody spends money on a facility, it's an investment for the city. So we have to look at that. So we have to look at all options.
okay, now, I've never seen the bid. I wish I could see it. But I guess I can go on BidNet or something. It's probably in there,
I can forward you the,
Okay.
I can download, I can send it to you tomorrow.
I think everybody'd like to see it. And no, I talked to a gentleman from a company called the Davy Company. You familiar with them?
No.
They operate the 2 Dearborn golf courses. They're the company that does the golf course. It's just the landscaping, the greenskeeping and all that stuff. Big company. And he told me, he says, I hope that you're stipulating that these bidders have their own equipment already on the side ready to use, because he says you can't buy equipment and get it delivered this year. He says their new equipment they're buying that they need real bad is promised is spring of 2023. So I hope that's something that we're looking into, because I know the previous manager has their own equipment, right? So we're going to have to get, whoever in there has to get their own equipment. Is that correct?
Councilman, also, there's other companies that can come in and take care of it. So
You have to have their own equipment, though.
Yeah, but there's enough companies around, they can actually come and mow the lawn, do whatever they need to do.
Yeah.
with the
So
keys.
And
let's wait and see what the bids are,
Yeah.
and then we'll go ahead and go for
And
it. Go ahead.
also, you put in there their experience at pumping off golf courses, I assume.
Councilman.
No, I'm serious. That's
agree.
a serious, very have experience on.
Go ahead,
pumping off
Councilman.
golf. The Davy Company does.
My only
Wait,
thing is,
only on golf course, because Mayor has all
Again,
this stuff on GFL.
Anybody, I'm sorry, real quick. So anybody's going to be investing, again, we're not looking for somebody who says like, hey, I got $50,000, I want to run both entities. That's not going to happen. So anybody that comes in, I mean, just the roof alone is going to be $500,000. So if somebody's going to do that, obviously, they're not going to come and invest $500,000 to not be able to operate.
So, yeah, I agree, and just a couple of things. Someone who, like myself, was always on Facebook, I really didn't read anything, but if anybody or any resident is concerned, BidNet, I know we discussed this, and that's what it's called, the RFP went out on BidNet. I think 2 weeks time is of the essence, so I completely understand. My only thing is to the administration, and I know I've had this conversation with the mayor, is that whatever the proposals that do come in, give us a couple of options just so that we can also see it, so that the residents can also see it. And I agree. I don't think that somebody should be there. If they're going to be putting a brand-new hall, which I would love to one day maybe have my son get married in. I mean, who knows? Maybe Councilman Abdullah's son will get married in. Right there off the golf course in the city of Dearborn Heights. That would be amazing. But you can't give them a 7 and 10-year contract. I mean, like you said, Mike Mackey put $2.2 million into his own money into a facility. And if somebody's gonna go put $2.2 million into, the golf course or the banquet hall, you can't give them a 10-year contract. I'm telling you.
Well,
you're not gonna-
let's wait to see what proposals come in, and then we're gonna have either a study session or possibly during the meeting, but more likely a study session on this. So let's wait on that. Wait to see what comes in. But I can make a comment to the residents that the administration's focus is on keeping this golf course open, taking it to the next level. I'll say it publicly, I don't care. I wasn't happy with the level it was being run, and I'll take my chances of being sued. And hopefully this thing goes to a much, much better level, but I can tell you that the administration is definitely focused on taking it in the right direction.
I agree. with
Thank you.
Councilman.
David?
You had, we'll let the mayor finish on GFL if you don't mind, unless you had something about.
It is on the
Oh,
golf
go ahead,
course.
please, go ahead,
I think
Councilwoman.
of interest, it would be nice to have someone from the audience who has noticed things happening speak. I think Vince wants to mention something.
On the golf course?
Well, he can, as soon as we're done, if he
Right.
has any other
Okay,
questions.
all right.
Yeah, I know.
So during the public comments, absolutely, Vince, I'll give you a chance to speak.
I know I talked to Vince earlier before the meeting. He had
did
some
I.
concerns, so I did answer some of the questions, I hope. So with GFL, obviously, their contract is, I would say, mid-March. Will be done with that company. And we do have priority. Will be coming soon after. I did meet with some of the reps in the last couple of weeks. We are working on a plan for the residents. Priority is actually going to be doing a lot, printing some material, and we're looking at sending it to all the residents in Dearborn Heights. We're going to keep the same routes, the same timing. Whoever's getting their stuff picked up on Monday, they'll be picked up on Monday, and so forth. So we're not going to deviate from the schedule that we had before. Priority is going to be giving us literature that we can post on our social media and also our website. And again, we're looking at trying to also get them to, or us, to be sending their residents mailers or flyers, letting them know what the truck's going to look like and what things going to be looking like, for the residents, so they're aware. And we will also update them on cable. I did schedule a tentative date with the GFL with the priority management to come in and address the residents through our cable. And we will be, again, posting the interviews on Facebook, so they're well aware that the new company will be coming, and we'll be telling them what their expectations are. So we'll make sure we'll keep the council informed and up to date on that one. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Go ahead, Councilman.
When they send these flyers out, can we, again, in bold lettering, underline, different color, whatever we need to do, is to make sure that people don't put their trash cans out in the street? Okay, people are still doing that, and
Or their cars.
and our snow removal people are just fighting this. And even when, in the summertime, when our streets get swept, they're going around in circles, and it's just a waste of their time doing that. So I can understand the frustration, and there's people say, well, my street don't get clean, look at the front of my house. But sometimes we have to blame ourselves of how that's going on. So if we can highlight that in the message that we sent.
Yeah, one of the things also I know Mr. Dishram is going to be discussing is ordinance. We have some brochures that we're going to be sending out to the residents, and those brochures do have where to put the trash cans, and I'm sure he'd be talking about the sweeps that we'll be doing.
I know our
also.
newspaper does that. We
Yeah.
send out twice a year, but if we're going to be sending out new stuff now for the new trash hauler, if we can actually put it in that.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, were you all set?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Next on our agenda, was there any other council person that had a comment? None? Okay. Next on our agenda is announcements from members of the administration. I see our radio announcer.
Yes.
Well, hello. Hello, Council Chair and Mayor. Just wanted to mention a couple of upcoming programs. First off, Readopoly is coming. In honor of Reading Month, join us for a 2-month-long game of Readopoly. Play along by downloading a Readopoly card or picking up a card at John F. Kennedy Jr. Library. As you complete a genre property, bring in your card for an entry into our grand prize drawing. Readopoly runs from Tuesday, March 1st through Saturday, April 30th. Game cards must be turned in by May 2nd. Next Tuesday, March 8th at Carolyn Kennedy Library at 6 p.m. and Wednesday, March 9th at Carolyn Kennedy Library at John F. Kennedy Jr. Library at 6 p.m. We will be having a Pie Day puppet show. Will Mr. Jim be able to read his poetry, or will be foiled once again by a cast of zany characters? So come join us and find out. That's all for now. Thanks for your time, and see you at the library.
Thank you, Mike.
Can we give Mike a round of applause, please?
He reminds me of The Price is Right. Remember that? You're the next contestant on The Price is Right. Reminds me of that.
Every time you speak, I'm going to ask everybody to give you a round of applause. Every time you speak.
Come on down.
Hi, I'd like to just take a minute to thank the DPW workers, building and maintenance, and my staff for helping as much as they could to try and get the fire and ice event off last Saturday. Unfortunately, we weren't able to even get the ice to melt, let alone the wind to stop gushing like it was, which caused most of my acts to cancel. The fire eater did want to try and do the fire show under the tent, but my tents fell half down. It was quite a sight to see, but a lot of people still helped out, and I wanted to make sure that I thanked them. We have an event coming up in April on the 9th at the Canfield Center, and that's going to be our Easter marshmallow drop. We're dropping marshmallows from a helicopter. The kids get to look for the special prized marshmallow. We're going to have it marked, and they get to turn it in for a prize. We're also having Target involved, and the Easter Bunny will be there, so that'll be a nice event.
I think the mayor usually is always there, correct? I think he might even be in the Easter Bunny outfit, right?
I don't know, we'd have to get pinker ears.
He is, he's going to be the bunny.
I don't think I'm built for that, Councilman.
You are.
I think you're built right for that.
I think you look like more of an Easter bunny.
No.
with all that hair.
The mayor's got the purple tie on. He's got the Easter going for him.
I'm sorry, Council Chair, before, so that fire and ice show, no more this year, till next year?
Yes, correct, Councilman.
Okay, let's go.
She's coming back.
We're good.
Actually, we really don't have time to reschedule it because March is so iffy in the weather. I know you guys know that we run a ski and snowboard club. March has always been a warmer month than what we like, and so instead of doing that, we're just going to put everything forth to next year. The one large thing that came out of this that I was very pleased about is our Dearborn Heights Parks and Recreation Facebook page went from 800 engagements to over 8,000. So the community engagement that we got from this event was unbelievable.
They all jinxed us. They jinxed us.
People even came in, drove in, and it was really kind of an odd sight. It took me about an hour and a half to sit there before I canceled, but the tent company came out at noon to fix the tents. And so people after that were coming in, and all they saw were these empty tents. It was like a ghost town, but we did the best we could, and we got the word out. A lot of people helped with the city, John Zadikian and Bob Ancrap and everybody.
Well,
but
great job anyway, thank you so much.
yeah, it's going to be amazing next year. Maybe it was an omen because maybe it was meant to be because we couldn't handle the crowd we were going to get. I don't know. So I guess stay tuned till next year.
Thank you.
Robert Conrad, Director of DPW. Just wanted to inform the City Council and the residents, this afternoon I attended a pre-construction meeting for the construction project on Telegraph Road this summer, which will be taking place from Van Born to York Street. Now, York Street is a Dearborn, so it's a it's a project in conjunction that's going to involve both cities. But it is a mill and resurface project. They didn't have their progress schedule concluded yet, so I don't know how long this project is going to last, but it does seem like it's going to involve major lane restrictions throughout the summer, so we can expect some delays along Telegraph. It does appear that they will, the one announcement they did make is they will be dropping off traffic control devices the second week of March. So I guess that's when we'll start to see their presence, and then construction, I think, will be weather dependent on when they will start after that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Council Chair.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm glad that Mr. Conrad actually reminded me. So one of the things we have to, I've never seen it approved, but there's got to be, when they're doing construction, obviously it's going to be noise. So that's something that we have to.
We have done that in the past.
Okay, so just let you know that there's got to be noise when they're doing the construction on Telegraph.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is it just resurfacing?
So the scope of the project is there's resurfacing, there's some geometrics with some of the turnarounds that they're going to be improving. There's some signal modifications that they're going to be improving. They're going to be replacing, I think they said like 4 miles of curb and gutter. So I mean, it's basically a resurfacing project, but there's a lot of other add-ons with it. There's some underground sewer work that's taking place as well. You know, basically, yes, there's some drainage improvements. There's some geometric improvements with the turnarounds, but there's also some major bridge construction that's taking place at Ecorse Creek. What the people will see is primarily a resurfacing project when it's complete, but there are a lot of background or intricate processes that's going to be taking place as well.
What's the estimated time for completion?
I believe they're going, it does have a completion of this summer, but like I said, the progress schedule wasn't available at the time of the meeting. So I don't have an end date yet, but most of their projects are one season, especially one of, this isn't a large project.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Director. Any other, no other ones? Okay, so at this particular point? No.
No, CCRC, the commission. I'm the representative
Right.
of tonight.
Okay, so just give me 1 second.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, do we do this one as a part of the announcements, or do we go under public comments if she's a member of the commission?
If it's an announcement,
Okay,
yeah.
go ahead,
It's
come on
about
up.
an event or something.
Yeah, I'm the announcements for the Community and Cultural Relations Commission person today.
I'm so sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. And I'm speaking openly. Couldn't Ms. Winless, who's on the Cultural Relations Commission?
I'm the chairperson for the upcoming event, so I have all the information, and she's not on that committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I'm so sorry, I was just saying that because.
It does make sense. I've got all the info, because I'm the chairperson for the committee. So the CCRC Commission has their upcoming regular meeting next week on the Thursday, March 3rd at 7 p.m. at Caroline Kennedy, as well as through Zoom. They're doing a hybrid meeting. And then the Women in Leadership Awards, that's the committee that I'm on. We've been collecting nominations all month for these awards to honor the women in our city who served all of us so well. And we've already gotten, I think, over 30 nominations, but that was a few days ago. We could have gotten many more already. We'll accept nominations through the end of February. They can be submitted online. There's a Google form on the Facebook page for the commission. And I believe it's been shared on the City Hall Facebook page as well. You can also pick up a paper ballot at the libraries, and I believe at City Hall as well. And then the brunch itself is on March 19th at the Stitt Post at 11 a.m. Tickets are $25 a piece, or you can get a table of 8 for $150. And tickets can be purchased online, again, link on Facebook, or by dropping a check off at City Hall. Any extra proceeds that go beyond the cost of the event will remain in the CCRC fund for the next event. So I believe that's the autism awareness stuff, but it could also be held for things like Juneteenth. But it would go towards the next events that the CCRC is
Can
putting
you
on.
give me that date again?
For the brunch is March 19th.
I gotta put-
Saturday, March 19th.
I got to put that in, and the time?
11 a.m.
I'll be there, Councilman.
Yep. All right, thank you.
What day is that on,
Thank you, Rachel.
A Saturday. Yep,
I'm sorry, what time is the meeting next week?
7 p.m. at Caroline Kennedy.
Thank you. At this point, with no other announcements from anybody from...
Council Chair, I do
Oh,
have
our
someone
Madam
on,
Clerk.
I do have someone on.
Go ahead. Wait, is this an
It's
announcement?
for Director
From the Mayor's Department, correct?
Dishroom.
Okay, go ahead.
Is it an announcement?
Yes.
Okay, let me unmute him or ask him to unmute. There you go.
It's kind of an update, and just not really announcements, just
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
Oh, no, we're losing it.
Unfortunately, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you. Okay, now we can hear you.
No, he's,
can you hear me now?
Yes.
I was just trying to do some reminders and updates, if that's okay. It'll be brief. Is that okay?
Yeah, but you may want to be quick because the internet is coming in and out, but go ahead.
I was gonna say, I was gonna wait to do this, but I'll try to get through all this stuff. Just some reminders and an update. Please keep your sidewalks clear. When the snow comes, you have 24 hours to remove it. And then the end of the snow event, like Councilman Muscat said, please don't put your trash cans in the street.
Cars on the road.
Can't hear him.
Went out.
Thank you.
Uh-oh, we lost him.
Wait.
It's not like sweeping.
Can't hear you.
Please don't park on the street on trash day. Can you hear me?
Got that.
Can you guys hear me or not?
Now we
Yes.
can.
Okay, I was gonna wait till next time to do this. I'm doing the best I can. I apologize.
I don't think it's,
It's the internet, yeah.
yeah, it's got to be.
February.
Bill, you're coming in and out because of the
Mayor's
internet,
office.
so. Can you do me a favor, Bill? Can you hear me? You can't hear us.
put it on
In the next meeting.
Okay, Bill?
What's that?
Bill, you
I
were
can
coming
hear
in
you
and
now.
out. You were coming in and out, so you got one of two choices. Either put it on the website, whatever the announcements are,
or save.
or second option is maybe the next meeting I could give you a chance to talk, because you're coming in and out on the internet via Zoom. Okay? Thank you very much, Bill.
I'll do the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem, it's not your fault. Thank you.
So I think
Thank you, Dave.
Council Chair, one of the things he was going to talk about is, I know.
Oh, okay, the mayor's gonna continue some of the things you were talking about. Go ahead.
I mean, we were talking about tickets, so they are enforcing a lot of things, and they're issuing a lot of tickets, for especially repeat offenders. I know Councilman Muscat brought that up, several times. I know he was at the City Hall a few times in the last month or so, so this is some of the stuff that.
You're talking about the ordinance tickets,
Yes,
right?
ordinance tickets, blight, so they are out in force, and they are enforcing ordinances, and especially on the weekend as well, so they're coming in on the weekend to do that as well.
Okay, thank you. I know ordinance has a big job ahead of them, and I wish the residents would make the ordinance departments and the mayor's office a lot easier by just following the rules, following the ordinances. So that this will save you guys some taxes and have less people out there giving people citations and ordinances. But unfortunately, I guess it's part of running a city, so thank you. Anybody else, Madam Clerk, on there?
No
Okay.
announcements, no.
No other announcements?
I
So-
have, David.
Yep, you have an announcement? Okay, go ahead. Councilwoman?
Okay, I'd just like to announce that this is the week where we have the South Dearborn Heights Civic Association meetings on Thursday, the fourth Thursday, 7 o'clock, 3335 South Beach Daily. Our speaker will be from the Water Department on February 24th, 7 p.m. We also have the Building Department coming on March 24th, 7 p.m. And the Ordinance Department will be there on April 28th. So if any of these things are of interest to you, you can call me if you forget the dates or the time. And also tomorrow night, we have the Ecorse Creek Commission, and our fantastic engineer will be there to discuss the Ecorse Creek with us, and I imagine Mr. Jamal will make an appearance also. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. At this particular point, we're going to go ahead and move to public comments. Please step up to the podium, state your name, street, and city that you live in. And this will be 3 minutes each. Please stay respectful. I'm not going to do the full announcement. Actually, Vince, if you don't mind, Mike, Vince had something, you said you want to say something about the golf course. Did you want to go up? Mike, you follow the Lions, so we're always going to be last, right? I don't know, you didn't ask for extra time, but I'll give you an extra minute. Go ahead, Vince.
Drapkowski, Columbia Street, Dearborn Heights, Michigan. My concern was every time it rains, same as the Ecorse Creek, I start sweating bullets to see how long Heinz is going to be closed. And also the concern with the golf course. I know you guys had a closed study session on that, and anything that goes on with the golf course, I get nervous. I don't want to see developments that's going to change the river or its purpose for flooding. That's what it was designed for, part of that area. Things were answered why it's so important to get this project going. My concern was the short time for the bids. Usually you have more time for bidders to bid and write proposals. When I was doing bidding or anything like that, anything that came in short or in a quick put together, it usually ended up in the trash barrel because it wasn't done properly. So I hope these bidders are going to do their due diligence, make sure they're talking apples to apples for this project. Those were some of my concerns that I brought up with the mayor out on the hall there. He convinced me that things are going to go right, and I'm putting all my eggs in your basket. And Easter's coming up, so I want my eggs back.
Yeah. Easter, yeah.
Okay. And one other thing, with these hybrid meetings and stuff like that, I would really like to see the planning commission up here. If we can get the city council on a hybrid meeting and Zoom, the planning commission can do it too. I've asked for years to get that done. I brought it up several times. So let's get the ball rolling on that. And I guess Mike from DPW is going to be next. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Vince.
Everybody have a good night. Thank you.
Mike? Now, whenever I have somebody from within the city, I always like to clarify, are you commenting as a representative of the city or as a resident? No, and I sincerely, honestly mean that. Just clarify who you're commenting as, so that.
One comment will be as a employee, one comment's going to be as a resident.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Mike Blackburn.
Say which one's which, though.
Okay, I will. Mike Blackburn, Arnold Street, Dearborn Heights. This first one is as an employee. This is for Councilman Muscat. At Campfield Center, those basketball rims were taken down 3-4 years ago by the former recreation director. So they don't exist no more, so basketball can't happen there anymore. That's all I want to say about that. Second one, as a resident, I didn't read the food truck ordinance, so that's why I'm asking this question. Is there anything in that ordinance that would prohibit a food truck from, let's say, going to Annapolis High School football game, parking on the side street where it's legal, and selling food from there?
I will give you at least a preliminary answer, and possibly Gary Miyati can give you the rest. At this particular point, all we're approving is just a temporary, not ordinance, temporary okay for us as a council to permit people to do it soon.
Yes.
But there's going to be a study session, Our Corporation Counsel, Gary Miyake, just gave us a lot of information, an old proposed ordinance, different emails that have come through on that. So at this particular point, we're still in the research stage, I guess is probably the best way you could say it. So whatever is in one of the ordinances that he had sent us is not the end all. It was just a starting point from one that was done, if I'm not mistaken, Gary Miyake, I believe it was in 2017 or something like that, like 5, 6, 7 years ago.
I mean, I could read from it. I mean, right now, what
2016.
it proposes is locations permitted, 16207, vendors licensed under this chapter shall be permitted to operate only in parking lots of privately owned or publicly owned property in accordance with the terms of their licenses within the city of Dearborn Heights. So, I mean, in essence, it wouldn't be the person would be just on the street. They'd have to end up being in a lot, and they would have to otherwise meet the qualifications under the ordinance.
Okay, I was just wondering, because of what was talking before, somebody might try and push the limits, saying, well, it's a public street, I can park there. That's why I was just asking.
Yeah, I wouldn't
I
even.
don't believe that.
I would be the first one to tell you I'm against that. It would have to be at a private place. That person would have to get approval. I mean, at least that's what I'm gonna fight for, when it comes to the food trucks. But I know I was able to, when I had a food truck, take it into Crestwood, sell out of Crestwood, but because the school board and everybody had allowed me at the time.
Okay, that's it, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any other members of the audience in person before we go to the Zoom?
We have one more.
Leslie, go ahead.
Leslie Winless, Annapolis Street, Dearborn Heights, Michigan. I have 4 quick points. Happy Black History Month. Thank you, Councilman Winslow, for bringing it up tonight. I also wanted to shout out the D7 school district. They had a really great presence for Black History Month, and the Dearborn Heights libraries, as well as whoever runs the city's like Facebook page. I don't know, they've been doing like a really great job with Black History Month. I don't know who does that, but
I believe it's
kudos.
Zadikian, right? Zadikian.
John does it? Oh, well, kudos to John.
Mariana and Stephanie.
I'm sorry?
Mariana and Stephanie.
So Mariana and Stephanie run the Facebook pages?
No, not the Facebook, the city.
The city's.
John Zadigian.
The Facebook page is what I'm talking about. The Facebook page?
Oh, that's John Zadigian is running it.
Oh, okay, well, shout out to John. And I just wanted to make a quick comment that DEI and B work is everyone's responsibility. It really should be a budget line item instead of something that we do whenever there's a holiday or a thing to celebrate for the month. It really should be something we put resources in. If we truly support and believe in that, then we should put the resources behind it to make it
I'm sorry,
successful.
which word I missed that?
For diversity, equity, inclusion, and
Oh, okay.
belonging. I just said the acronym, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Today, for the Wi-Fi issue, I noticed that when I used the hotspot off of my cell phone, I was able to stay connected to the Zoom even longer than like Lynn was when it cut out. So maybe we should invest into a hotspot box instead of using the internet from the school. I just think it would work better. It did for me today. The other thing is a comment on the voting location change. I have to agree with Councilman Baydoun, and I feel like with these things that are not like urgent, there's no reason for anyone to like feel like they need to rush to vote for it. I don't think the next election is until August, so I don't see why we couldn't have tabled it or put it on the back burner or sent it back to the administration to survey the people who vote in that area, just to see what they felt and whether they felt like it should be kept. I think your job is to represent them, and I felt sad to see that we didn't create an avenue to hear from those people, especially since one of the council people brought up that several people called them about that location and wanted it to stay open. Next, I wanted to thank the Parks and Recs Department for reaching out to me after my last public comment and changing the date of their event to accommodate our Juneteenth celebration. I really did appreciate that, and that's all I have. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Leslie.
One thing, Leslie, if I may call you Leslie.
Sure.
You know, to table something like that, I could understand your viewpoint, but our city clerk needs to get it going ASAP. There's so much, you know, after working these polls, there's so much to do in election you know, this is not just you know, she's going to start 2 weeks before an election. She's working at it right now.
Councilman, but we're not,
Yeah, I
we're
know,
not
I-
changing it for 2 years.
I agree with that, but you guys meet every
I'm
two.
just saying, she has a lot of work to do.
You all
We're
meet
changing it
every
up in 2
2
years.
weeks,
It's not being
and
changed
this
this
is 2022, so you literally could send out a link and get a survey, and we could answer you tonight, like right now, off our cell phones.
Thank you.
And then you could have had it for your meeting in 2 weeks. That's all I was saying, is that we didn't need to do it without hearing from the residents. That was it.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Hello, guys. I've just got a few things to say. And I'm going to ask just, like, if you guys have any questions or need clarification from me, just wait until I'm done. I'm very concerned about the closed meeting that was held and the minutes that were approved today. The intention of Michigan's Open Meetings Act and similar laws in other countries or other states is to foster openness in government, to enhance, well, wow, my handwriting's terrible, to enhance responsible decision-making. And the spirit of this law is that the public has a interest in the decisions that you all are making. We have our thoughts and opinions. We love sharing them with you guys. I know you all know that. And your decision-making process, your deliberations and debate on matters that you vote on is to be as public as possible. And I'm very concerned that the meeting that was held regarding the Warren Valley Golf Course was not in line, at the very least, with the spirit of this law, if not completely with the letter of this law. Because, like, just hearing tonight the mayor saying that that it was discussed to have a special meeting on this. Was that discussed during the closed session? Because if it was, that's not a reason to have a closed session. The reason that was cited at the meeting and in the minutes was to discuss the written opinion, written legal opinion regarding this topic. The Michigan Attorney General in the Open Meetings Act handbook clearly states that in those instances, you need to only discuss the legal elements of that written opinion letter. So if I had a written opinion letter on, I don't know, some goofy thing, you can go into closed session, at least based on what I'm reading in the Act handbook, you can go into closed session to discuss only the legal aspects of that. So if you guys had this meeting about it and just discussed those legal things, great, awesome. I trust that you guys are working with the best interests. But if you discussed whether to have a special meeting about the Warren Valley Golf Course plans for the future in that closed session, that's not part of the written legal opinions, legal things. And that should have been in an open meeting. Now, I do not think anyone intentionally violated it, but I am asking you to rectify this.
I will tell you, Rachel.
Wait 1 second, okay? I'm asking you to please rectify this because I don't want to like I trust you guys. I really am trying to trust you guys, but the things I'm hearing are just, it's very concerning.
Rachel, I will.
Wait, 1 second. So just to give you, let you know your time was up, unless you had another sentence that you want to add to this.
Gary wants to.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to comment before Councilman Baydoun said anything, just to reiterate, anything that was discussed in the closed session cannot be discussed during this meeting.
Correct.
That's all I was going to end up reiterating, and was just going to say, Ms. LaPointe, is, from my perspective, it was done completely legally, and it was based on my opinion. And it was based on an opinion that was exempt from disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act, and that's a basis for us to have, or for this body to end up having a closed session under the Open Meetings Act. So I think
And all that
we
was,
complied.
and you can assure me that all that was discussed was the legal elements of that letter.
Discuss that.
I can't say what exactly was discussed or not discussed during that meeting, but I believe that we were fully in compliance in that meeting being conducted, the way it was.
And I can tell you, as a council chair, there was nothing that gave me any type of alarm to say, hey, we should not be doing this in a closed session. Everything seemed to be on board.
Can I ask one other question? Have you guys attended trainings on the Open Meetings Act? Not obviously Gary, who
Yes, we
should be,
have.
but like have all, I mean, I know there are new city council members might not have had time to do that, but you guys have attended trainings on that?
We've read up on it, I can tell you that much
We
for sure.
did with our training.
We did it.
Yes.
Myself, I did.
I did one as
With
well.
MM,
I remember Mariana signed me
Yeah.
up.
MML.
But I will just say this, Council Chair, if that's okay with you. Rachel, and I understand where you're coming from, but I want you to understand, I'm somebody that's extremely passionate, and anytime I tried to say something that was out of the ordinary, the mayor, the council chair, and would say, you know, hey, no, we're not allowed to discuss this.
Right.
And so I would take a step back and say, okay, I'm not allowed to have this conversation. So I'm not trying to say too
No,
much.
no.
But I will tell you that I myself was told, hey, we're not allowed to discuss this. You're not allowed to talk about the golf course. We're talking about legal matters. And that was what was discussed, and we're not allowed to say anything
Right,
about
but legal matters are not, I'm not, my point though is that legal matters in and of themselves are not a reason for a closed session,
They can
Okay.
be.
right? So that's my point, and I'm just asking you guys to rectify this.
Okay.
And if, Dave, you want to talk later, maybe we can.
If I want to what, I'm sorry?
If Dave, as the council chair, if you want to talk later, we can do that,
Okay, no problem.
okay? Since
Thank you.
time is limited.
Sure,
Thank
no
you.
problem. Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? Seeing none?
Or on Zoom.
Madam Chair, can you let people in on Zoom?
Is it gonna work?
I do not have any hands up at the moment.
Okay, no hands on Zoom, going once, going twice. All right,
Move to adjourn?
Councilman Tom Wenzel, raise his hand.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn by Councilman Tom Wenzel, seconded by Councilwoman Nancy Breyer. Meeting over. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening.